Oh, ignota ricchezza. Eppure
Oh, unknown wealth. Yet it was all so simple. We were young. Everything was possible. Everything was so bright. And Francesco, the dream of dreams. Everything and only beauty. The poor, the lepers, hunger, hardships, sleeping on the streets, the cold. I remember nothing, only light and beauty, beauty and light. Hay and stables were more beautiful than the king's palaces, poverty, only her. I do remember that, a door to paradise. We wanted nothing else. We saw nothing else. Oh, unknown wealth. The dream of dreams, the highest poverty, all beauty, a light that covers all the darkness caused by pain. It covered everything. The highest poverty, the highest, just her, so high that we could see the sky. And we saw it. We really saw it. And it was wonderful. Francis taught us to love the poor, but above all, to love poverty. Many have loved the poor. Only Francis loved poverty this way. We didn't see the poor. They were the greatest beauty. They were only the spouse. They were there, but it was all and only beauty. And we saw this beauty through the eyes of Francis. Francis taught us another kind of freedom. When we did not own anything, we become weightless, so light we can fly. Without saying a word, Francis showed us the beauty. It was all a matter of eyes. At the beginning we saw the poor, the wounds, the misery. Instead, he saw something else. And he showed us his paradise. And from that moment forth, we never stopped.
What about sunrise? What about rain? What about all the things that you said we were to gain? What about killing fields? Is there a time? What about all the things that you said were yours and mine? What have we done to the world? Look what we have done. What about all the peace that you pledged your only son? What about flowering fields? Is there a time? What about all the dreams that you said were yours and mine?
Welcome to Assisi. This is the economy of Francesco.
Bienvenidos todos.
Salam.
Hola.
Hi.
2 years after Pope Francis' letter and 1 year after our first global meeting, Economy of Francesco keeps inviting the world young economists, entrepreneurs, and change makers to give a soul to the economy. Hola a todos, soy Catalina y soy de Ecuador.
We have prepared a special program to celebrate the economy of Francesco. Today we want to meet again because we can't be committed to great things without a spirit to inspire us. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Amin from Algeria.
And I am Lourdes from Guatemala. Bienvenidos a todos. And you know, this is a live event, so I want to invite you to interact with us. How can you do it? Well, through our social media channels and, of course, using the hashtags of today. Hashtag EOF 2021 or hashtag Francesco Economy. You know, this all turned out into several initiatives, reflections, and actions taking place all over the world. And now, here in Assisi, we have the opportunity to share the life of the economy of Francesco. The EOF harvest, the first fruits of these 2 years. Because EOF is the economy of the already. So, welcome to you all from Assisi.
Yes, Lourdes. We are here in the Palazzo Monte Frumentario of Assisi. Thank you to the municipality of Assisi for the warm welcome and hospitality. We have prepared a program for about 4 hours with talks and link-ups with the whole world.
It is an opportunity to deepen great issues of the global economy through spirituality, poetry, and arts. And we'll do it following the footsteps of St. Francis and his first companions. In some special sessions of the program, the first of these has already begun, the highest poverty.
At the conclusion of the event, we will listen to the words of Pope Francis. But now, let's go on with our program. There are more than 40 countries around the world that have organized a EOF local event, even at times a bit inconvenient for them to be with us. Have a look at our map. So, a special greeting and thank you to all of you, from Montreal to Shanghai, and special greetings also to the Focolare movement, which is now in Rome, but also thank you to many other cities that have organized events, like Madrid, Buenos Aires, Bogotá. Muchos saludos a todos. And now, let's immediately go to the UK, where we have now a connection with Si-Chun Lam. He is in London. We wanted to make also a connection with Carolina, who is in Concepción, Chile, but at the end we couldn't. However, muchos saludos a todos en Chile. And now, let's start with you, Si-Chun Lam. How are you?
Hello Assisi. We are London. So we're really pleased to be part of the Economy of Francesco global event, and we're gathered here in the crypt. We are gathered here in the crypt below St. Mary's Moorfield Church, an oasis of calm and tranquility in the middle of the city of London. We are 10 minutes walk from the Bank of England, which is one of the world's oldest banks. And we're 15 minutes walk from the London Stock Exchange, which is one of the world's oldest stock exchanges. So you can say we are truly building a new soul for the global economy, right in the center, right in the heart of global finance. And then, although we are UK, we have got at least 15 countries from 4 continents reflected in our group over here. And this morning, we worked with Dr. Roberto Pasqualino of the Global Sustainability Institute, bringing together the work of the 12 villages. And we're just really pleased to be with you here in Assisi and around the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and a lot of greetings to you, all of you in London. Thank you very much.
The economy of Francesco has also inspired young artists in a recent month, like Ingrid Basaldua from Mexico. She will make for us a special piece of art during this afternoon. We will discover what it is about later on.
As you know, the organization of the economy of Francesco was entrusted to an organizing committee composed of the Diocese of Assisi, the Seraphic Institute, the Economy of Communion, and the Dicastery for Promotion of Integral Human Development. Now, let's welcome the president of the committee, the Bishop of Assisi, Domenico Sorrentino, Francesca Di Maola, Sister Alessandra Smerilli, and Luca Crivelli. Please, welcome. Welcome to Economy of Francesco.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
A special thanks to you for following the work of these months and the preparation of this event. We are so grateful you joined us today. Please, right now, Bishop Sorrentino, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, albeit virtually, to Assisi in the second World Celebration of the Economy of Francesco. Welcome in the name of the Lord. I greet you with the words of Francis of Assisi. May the Lord give you peace. What we are doing at the invitation of the Holy Father and with the inspiration of the Saint of Assisi has not only a sociological, economic, and political dimension, but also a transcendent dimension. A new economy, more worthy of our humanity, will never be born if man does not conform to God's plan. This was understood by St. Francis and well represented by Giotto when the young merchant, renouncing earthly goods, raised his arms to heaven. His words were, "No longer Father Pietro di Bernardone, but our Father who art in heaven." It was the renunciation of the idol of money. Indeed, it was not simply a renunciation, but rather an annunciation. It was the manifesto of a new economy. The choice of poverty was a condition and expression of love. It was not by chance that Francis interpreted his relationship with poverty in terms of marriage. He married poverty. Of course, not poverty understood as misery, the sad condition to which too many people still in our developed world are forced to live because of the indifference, exploitation, and selfishness of others. But the evangelical beatitude of poverty, in the footsteps of Jesus, blessed are the poor, for the kingdom of God is theirs. By choosing God as his only love, he also made his own the logic of God, that is the logic of fraternity. The two encyclicals of Pope Francis, Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti, highlight and underline this dimension. We live the Second World Meeting in a world that remains tried by the pandemic. Beyond the health aspect, the pandemic has revealed the fundamental problems of the current economy: inequality. Let us look only at the difference of the possibility of vaccination from country to country, which harms so many poor people. We must rediscover the category of fraternity as the most decisive category of our culture, important also for the economy that cannot be a real economy of Francesco if it is not an economy of fraternity. May the Spirit of God enlighten us so that we can see and choose together the way towards a better world. I wish everyone good work.
Thank you very much, dear Bishop Sorrentino. And now let's give the floor to the president of the Seraphic Institute, Francesca Di Maollo. Please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy, very happy to see you again, waiting to embrace you in Assisi. I give you the greetings of the young people of the Seraphic Institute. We are celebrating our anniversary, 150 years, full of concrete love for children and young people with severe disabilities in the name of St. Francis. We need to be listened to. We need to show you our wounds. I'm not thinking about the wounds of the body, but the wounds caused by society and an economy that exclude the most fragile. Taking care of fragile people also means recognizing their dignity and working so that no one is excluded. In our important anniversary, we have a topic that is close to our hearts and that we want to share with you. Accessibility to care for everyone throughout the world. Health services are not accessible to everyone, especially for people with severe disabilities. There will be no development without taking care of everyone's health. We often use the word health, animal health, environmental health, democratic health, human health, but everything is connected, and we have only one health, an integral health. Remember that health of each of us depends on many factors: climate change, land use, biodiversity loss, social inequalities, conflicts, unemployment, animal health. If there is no health for everyone, there is no health for anyone. You are young and animated, so with so much hope. Young people's hope is not a simple desire, but it's the courage, it is the strength to know how to go further. It is the vision of how to heal a sick economy and a sick world. The hope of young people is the same as that of St. Francis of Assisi. When he heard, "Francis, go and repair my house, which you can see is ruins." Dear young people, go and repair our house, which you can see is in ruins. We believe in you. The Seraphic Institute trusts and trust your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Francesca. And now, Sister Alessandra Smerilli, Interim Secretary of the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development. Please, the floor is yours, Sister Alessandra.
Thank you. Hello, I'm very happy to be here again. But this time I'm representing the Dicastery for the Promotion of Integral Human Development. But first of all, I'm here to send to you the warmest greetings from Pope Francis. He is very happy with you. He is constantly informed about what you are doing, where you are, and he knows that you are already changing the world. And so I think you are Pope Francis' dream, which is becoming true. And so he is very happy, as I said. He is grateful, and believe me, he is proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Alessandra. Luca, we will talk with you later, but can you give some words, please?
Yes, what I want to say is a very warm welcome on behalf of the entrepreneurs and of the entire community of the economy of communion all over the world. And see you later.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. And now we thank you also, Niado. Enrique and Charlotte, they are here today with us. We are going to better know them and their amazing music over this afternoon. So let's enjoy, let's enjoy.
Thank you, Bishop.
Passage on this earth, passage on this earth, leaving something fine for the harvest, the harvest, the harvest. Passage on this earth, passage on this earth, leaving something fine for the harvest, the harvest, the harvest.
Mon cher père, je me décide à vous écrire.
My dear father, I decided to write to you to close, at least up to the new order, my case, my conversation about my case. As regards the spirit of poverty, I do not remember moments when it did not belong to me, although to the extent possible where that was compatible with my imperfection. And I really fell in love with Saint Francis. I always was convinced that I would, during this airing, I would find myself and enter very freely in 1937. I spent 2 beautiful, wonderful days in Assisi. And there, when I was alone in the small Romanic chapel of the 12th century of Saint Mary of the Angels, of an incomparable, marvelous purity, where Saint Francis has prayed so often, something which was stronger than myself obliged me for the very first time in my life to kneel down.
If we, young people of Economy of Francesco, are here today, it's because in some way we have the same kind of experience of Simone Weil. When meeting Francis of Assisi, we felt the need to kneel, and while kneeling, we were able to see another world and another economy. Because the world changes when we look at what on our knees next to the list of the earth.
Francis' highest poverty gave rise to such a strong desire for a highest economy that's almost invented it ex novo, out of nothing. Poverty is not the anti-economy, rather the doorway to another economy. The poverty of St. Francis, his madness and absolute love for poverty, still inspires, appeals, and calls to challenges.
Hello everyone, my name is Patrick Manza.
Hi, my name is Natasha Yombwe.
Hi, my name is Raisa Lawanabahu.
This is me, Rita in the farm.
Hi, my name is Ariel Molina.
Hello, my name is Tatiana.
Abbiamo chiamato il progetto Computers in ogni scuola dello Zambia, è un obiettivo ambizioso ovviamente, ma ci fa capire dove vorremmo arrivare.
I've put to work my experience as an economist, and in particular, I'm helping with fundraising of Francesco project. Brazil is my home, but I feel part of an international movement.
I am based in Zambia. I'm based in Mansa, where the pilot project will actually be implemented.
So, together with Patrick, we decided to buy a plane ticket, and we went to Zambia to assess the situation and learn from the culture.
I've always had the big desire to be part of a big change, which made me answer to the Pop's call. And which, after months of working together with other young people in the economy of Francesco, I met up Luca Campanelli, of whom I shared with the idea of creating a school especially to help those people living in underprivileged economies.
When Patrick told me about the lack of computer science education in the Zambian schools, I thought it could be a place where I could put my knowledge into action. I'm Italian. I studied computer science. I did my bachelor in Italy and then came to Switzerland for my master.
So when Patrick came to me to tell about the project, I was pretty sure that I have to participate, and I'm very proud to be in such a noble case. Now, I'm the youngest member of the Packard School team.
Together with the team, we envisioned to give students online computer science courses.
The last 8 to 10 months we've been working to realize this project, and finally we can see something happening.
Well, I would like to share my dream.
After the Economy of Francesco event, we started up a project in the name of Farm of Francesco to begin demonstration farms in different parts of the country, and then begin the principles and sharing the knowledge with the people around the world.
My dream is to feed hungry, to protect the forests, and to assure a good income to family farmers and peasant farmers elsewhere.
We are piloting demo farm that could serve as means of spreading regenerative practices across Nigeria, targeting the women and the youth, so that we can begin to improve on livelihoods, where we can begin to talk about the actions that are safe for the ecosystem, the quality of food, safe environment, then conserved environment, and preserved biodiversity.
Sometimes it seems the world is really upside down, but life in nature and in community gives me strength to keep going. The policies and agricultural practices and monoculture crops here in Brazil are really oriented for the exploitation of the earth and the forests and the workers as well. I want to oppose to this system. I want to work to change this situation, and I believe in young people, and France's economy was really a prophetic call in this regard. Since we have been meeting with the Farm of Francis, I feel that I'm not alone in this journey, and I know that many people in different parts of the world are committed to this process, and together we are resilient and also stronger. I'm fighting every day against agribusiness and against the economy of scarcity among agroecological farmers, trying to build a better world for people and always caring for our Mother Earth.
So we just had a look at the computers. It's really nice to see they're working, they have the capacity for what we need. So this is really encouraging. It's really nice to be here, see the computers, and imagine the students that are already playing around with them and learning. This is really encouraging.
Thank you very much, Rita, Luca, Ariel, for sharing these stories. Thank you very much. And now, let's remain in Africa, because, you know, a few days ago, over 30 youth from many countries of the African continent gathered in Nairobi, Kenya. But before connecting with
Warm
them,
greetings
let's
to all
listen
in
to the
Academy
words of
Francesco.
Sabine Alcaire.
Warm greetings to all in the Economy of Francesco. I'm Sabine Alcaire from the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative in the University of Oxford. And it is important for you as economists to see the big picture, which is the role economics can take in promoting human flourishing in its most profound as well as its material dimensions. You know, in his 2009 presidential address to the European Economic Association, Nick Stern said, "If you look at the giants of our profession, many of them strode across it, and they were capable of talking and thinking about different parts of the economy in striking ways. But in recent times, economy and economists have contracted and specialized. So one hope is that you can be wider. Another is that you can be more practical. In the strange disappearance of welfare economics, Sir Tony Atkinson pointed out that often economists were not able to articulate how their policies would help people to flourish. But the need for a strong moral basis of the economy may be stronger after the pandemic and with the impending fiscal constraints that we need, that we are experiencing. And so my understanding is that the Economy of Francesco is taking forward the ideas of many, from those in the basis of economics, Amartya Sen, who argued that the objective of the economy should not be to maximize economic growth, but to maximize well-being, freedom, agency, people's ability to act as realized agents to flourish individually and in community. And so understanding how the very practical mathematical tools of our field can come together with these new and emerging fields of measurement of multidimensional well-being, multidimensional poverty, and do so in the wake of the pandemic when our ideas have been restructured, the importance of relationships, of mental health, of spirituality have come to the fore in a way that balances the material and other aspects of life. I think it's a very important time, and it's a time when economics as a subject can and must be revolutionized. My hope and my prayer is that your work will take it in that direction and that you will enjoy it. All joy for your own work.
Thank you, Dr. Alcaire, for this inspirational message. In the meantime, No Lutando has joined us together with many other young people. So let's now connect with them. Hello.
Hello. Earlier this week, 26 young people from across Africa gathered in Nairobi, Kenya, in the hope of truly understanding Pope Francis's invitation to give the economy a new soul. As we shared our stories, our desires, our experiences of God, we discovered that the diversity of our cultural and national backgrounds was a gift that empowered us to create a place of welcome and belonging. Where so many of the economic circumstances that control our lives have tempted us to despair, we found in our shared community an enduring cause for hope for a better future. In the spirit of this shared communion, we were led to question the root causes of economic challenges that face Africa today. We note the exclusionary effects of colonization and its legacy, the ongoing destruction of our ecosystems and the depletion of our natural resources, corruption on the part of multinational corporations and a political elite that does not represent our interests, and a lack of investment in knowledge production that would truly be by and for Africans. We do not name these evils just to tear them down. Rather, we bring them to the light in order to build a new economy that promotes integral human development and is worthy of the dignity we all share. We know what our challenges are, and we cannot face them alone. This is where you come in. Sisters, brothers, friends of the economy of Francesco. We ask for your solidarity as you listen to our invitation to stand together in support of a renewed economy that gives life, not death. Now, please, play our video message to the world.
In order to bring soul to Africa and the world, we need our world leaders and our local leaders to give opportunities for youth voices to be heard in terms of the humanity of our world and in conservation of our environment, which we live in.
African youth will be young for a very long time, so they have the solutions to a lot of our problems. So I invite you to collaborate with us to come up with these solutions. My message to the youth is that they should always have faith in God, for through God, everything is possible.
Having a sense of belonging so that they bring love to their community.
My advice to the youth is to leverage on technology to build synergies across the world so that we have a more sustainable way of dealing with our problems and creating solutions that work for everyone.
Improve on our economy of today, we need to involve the vulnerable by going far deep to them, by giving them hope that they too can make it and they have a special purpose.
Pour moi, l'économie de Francesco, c'est une nouvelle façon de repenser l'économie classique.
For me, the economy of Francis' economy must be more inclusive at all levels of society.
To come up with ideas to bring the political sector, social sector, and the economic sector of the environment so that it becomes a home to many.
I believe that we can tap into the African philosophy of Ubuntu, the philosophy that I am because we are as a community. And in doing so, I believe that we can build back better because we'll leave no one behind and we'll move together as a community.
We are going to move out as young change makers, and we are going to give life and dignity and spread love even as we endeavor to solve the pertinent issues in the society.
Together, let us build a new economy of Francisco that is more just and very empathetic.
I urge us all to unite in solidarity and be change makers for the new generation.
Hello from Nairobi.
Economy of Francesco, Africa.
Thank you so much for this amazing video. Thank you and many greetings to you all in Nairobi. Greetings from Assisi. Okay, you know, it is precisely at this moment when I ask myself, how will St. Francis have transmitted this if he were here? Maybe with a tweet? I don't know. Let's try it. Il sogno dei sogni, l'altissima povertà, tutta bellezza.
Dreams of dreams, high poverty, or beauty, 2021.
Francesco economy. Let's tweet it. Remember, you can share these tweets and let's spread the message with the world.
Parigi, Parigi. Grazie a Francesco non hai distrutto Assisi.
Paris, Paris, thanks to Francis didn't destroy
Maestri.
Assisi. We were called the Magisters, but we only saw Lady Poverty. We studied, but our great passion, our only ideal was guarding the eyes, the gaze of Francesco, and we did it. We couldn't touch the money, the currency, so we understood it. We became an expert of economic esteem and motivation market, theoreticians of money. We wrote about economy and about finance. And with the same eyes, the eyes of Francesco, we could also understand the beauty. And from the peaks of high poverty, we understood the richness of the market. So we became friends of the market, and friars and merchants together, all children of Lady Poverty. What an infinite joy the day that understood the deep fraternity among us friars, and the merchants can become poor every day because they live of a mobile poverty, so fragile poverty, all poor and all rich. Beautiful Francis. I remember the years in which I studied Cicero, the dispute between the honest and the useful. But it was only by observing the merchants in the fairs of Paris and listening to the stories in our convents that I understood that theirs also was an essential job, and that the market is part of the providential order that God wanted to give to the world. Francis, when as a boy I left to follow you and the highest poverty, I could not have imagined that one day I would be studying and understand the economics, currencies, and the merchants. Oh, unknown richness, oh, you so fruitful.
Ti sei un po' spaventato, proprio come pensavo. Vedrai, non serve a niente rintanarti in te stesso. Siamo solo conchiglie sparse sulla sabbia. Niente potrà tornare a quando il mare era calmo.
Welcome everyone. I'm so excited to start this school with you today.
The beginning of the Economy of Francesco School is a big emotion for all of us.
You can viralize this attitude of transforming the world by rethinking the economy from the commons.
My name is Álvaro Micheletti, I come from Brazil. It was a great surprise every time. The lecturers had all such amazing backgrounds and amazing trajectories in work, but also worked from very different approaches and with very different concerns. And I found it very interesting to see how all of these issues and ways of thinking all were connected in this objective of looking into ways of constructing a more human economy.
It is clear that the neoliberal experiment of the past 40 years, that experiment of 40 years has been a failure. It has led to lower growth and higher inequality.
My name is Laura Sarah, and I am from Mauritius.
Does purpose actually lead to profit? Or does it just mean that the company is distracted from the bottom line?
People need to learn what can be learned from caring for the earth, just like they need to learn what you learn from caring for other human beings.
And it was exactly what I was looking for when I first heard of the Economy of Francesco event. I wanted to be part of the UF movement with young economists and entrepreneurs, to learn and work together for a new economy based on common goods.
Then to put the commons as the rule and the private goods as an exception.
We need to figure out how to work as individuals everywhere and in institutions everywhere to care for the poor, to care for our planet.
One particular issue that stood out for me during the whole school was a lecture about St. Francis economics thinking.
En fait, cette distinction entre pauvreté.
So this distinction between voluntary poverty and involuntary poverty
is the link existed between the Franciscan doctrine and choice of absolute poverty, rooted in St. Francis' life and writings, and the Franciscan manifest attitude to produce analysis of market relations from 13th century onwards.
I'm really convinced that we need such new thinking. And I consider the shift from profit to purpose as crucial for today's world and for today's economy.
In a nutshell, is that impact is more like a trap, attracting a reformist mind, because it is a pure product of the financialized capitalism, and somehow I think it's not enough to change the financialized capitalism, just to add this impact story.
The contents of our topics, the seriousness of a school structure, and the high-quality lectures from outstanding scholars made the VUF School a fantastic and inspiring experience.
In the spirit of the economy of Francesco, to try to give a new soul to the global economy, but also trying to figure out how to give a new soul to work on poverty.
Citizens are not that much aware of the importance of relational goods, neither of carrying the responsibility for others and for common goods, which is necessary for proper functioning of social finance and impact investing in the current system.
What gives me a lot of optimism is that there are so many young people who've recognized that failure and are committed to having our society turn in a different direction.
That economics should not be seen as being, it's a grammar of argument. It provides a grammar, it's a language.
Economic theory and practice as law for the people of the world is the topic of our second session. It represents the challenge that still calls the young economists and entrepreneurs of Francesco. EOF has focused its first school on common goods. We just saw some of the key moments we could share. 2021 has also seen the birth of the Economy of Francesco Academy, the international network of scholars with the aim of conducting and promoting scientific research on issues connected with the Economy of Francesco vision. The next session gathers a panel of 4 young economists of Economy of Francesco in dialogue with Jeffrey Sachs and Helen Alford. Welcome, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, and welcome, Paolo. Paolo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Catalina, and welcome everybody to the round table, the economics of Francesco between the already and the not yet. So we are here doing what Pope Francis told us to do 2 years ago. So he told young economists, step up, be brave, be courageous, present your own research, your own ideas, and he asked also senior scholars to listen, to learn and to react to young economists' researches. And so today, as you see, we have 2 distinguished professors, and I would say also friend of the Economy of Francesco. Here on my right, he is Professor Jeffrey Sachs, University Professor at Columbia University. And I can see on my left Professor Helen Alford from Rome, connected from Rome. She's Vice Dean of the Faculty of Social Science at Angelicum University. And then we have our protagonists, the 4 EOF scholars, Mariana, Giulia, Marta, and Valentina, that I will present later in a better way. So what is our goal today? It's ambitious but also realistic. If we want to change the economy, if we want to move toward the economy of Francesco, we need also to rethink economics and so start reflecting upon the economics of Francesco. But of course, this is not something that you can do in 2 years. What we have been doing in 2 years, what we are doing now, we start doing that. And for this reason, the title Between the Already and the Not Yet. Because what is the structure of today's talk? We will be listening 4 research projects. 2 of them are at the not yet stage, meaning draft project research question, and others are at the already stage, so they are full paper. One is also already submitted to a journal. And then we will ask our expert, our senior scholars, Professor Jeffrey Sachs and Professor Ilan Alfor, to comment, to react, to say, something about what they will be hearing. And so I won't take more time, and I will go immediately to our first presenter that I see connected. The first presenter is Giulia Widowin, PhD candidate at Cambridge University and also Economy of Francesco Research Fellow. She will be presenting a project titled Constructing an Inclusive and Useful Measure of Well-Being for Empathetic and Informed Decision-Making. Giulia, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paolo, and greetings from the United Kingdom to the whole Economy of Francesco community and all the local hubs that are doing a lot today to be present at this event. It's really great to be here at this roundtable with all of you, and it's also really great to be part of the EFF Academy, to which I was admitted this year. I think a really good initiative which gives some young researchers the chance to pursue a meaningful project which aligns with the aims of the Economy of Francesco initiative, and also does a lot to support them with lots of different resources, including mentorship by experienced academics. As you said, Paolo, the project I'll be working on throughout the year relates to measurement of well-being and whether a more inclusive and useful one could be constructed to put towards empathetic and informed decision-making. And I'm really lucky that Dr. Gerardo Girardi will be guiding my work on this throughout the year. There's lots of debate and indeed dispute about whether the value of certain things should be measured at all. What should be valued and measured, and how should we do that? Different individuals and also communities and groups around the world can have quite different views on this, whether certain things should be sort of measured, their value should be measured. So on this basis, measurement also becomes a moral question, I think, and one that needs to be treated as such, with a clear delineation of the guiding philosophical framework that underpins any approach to measurement. I don't have the answer to everything, of course, and I don't have the answer to whether it's good for things like the value of nature to be attempted to be measured. But it does seem to me that at a time when we're needing to consider ever more questions at the global level and faced with a global society, also being faced with needing to find solutions related to common goods, of which nature and the environment are one, which is a quite urgent problem that we're facing. A common currency is needed for fruitful discussions and debates when we have lots of different communities around the table. And for this reason, some measure of goods that are important to us, however tentative, might be useful. Keeping the moral dimension to measurement in mind, we must endeavour then to continue to see the construction of any such measures through an ethical lens, to ensure that they are indeed serving the common good, and that the measures constructed by us are not disproportionately favouring winners in the outcomes that they can lead to and lock in through repeated decisions that some of these measures come to inform. The question then becomes, what's the most appropriate measure of welfare? What to measure and how to do it? And in the face of many interconnected crises that are playing out, such as environmental degradation, the current pandemic, forced migration, loneliness, that all touch upon each other in different ways. What are the most responsible things to measure? And how should we do it? For example, can we do it inclusively or not? when we focus on measuring income or wealth, whether it be individual or aggregate, and use this as the main or only metric or source of information about our well-being or the level of our human flourishing, in other words, we're leaving out a whole load of information about other dimensions and aspects that can contribute or are actually fundamental to our human flourishing. Wealth in material terms might be increasing, but our poverties in a number of different aspects might also be increasing at the same time, which could lead us to overall poorer levels of well-being or human flourishing. So we need to think about what it is that makes us wealthier in a way. And this is where the philosophical underpinning that we use to whatever approach we take becomes quite important or very important. And the work that Dr. Sabina Alkaya has presented at various EFF events gives us an example of this kind of thought and approach to welfare measurement. And indeed, Professor Jeffrey Sachs has spoken about this too. So in the project that I hope to be undertaking this year, I hope to look specifically into individual welfare measurements. And I'm hoping that a personalist approach can shed some light on what would constitute a more benevolent and inclusive measure. Within a framework of solidarity economics, which I think aligns quite well with Economy of Francesco aims, the measurement of individual well-being should more responsibly reflect the value of goods, whether it be a material good, a natural good, a social good, to each individual, and should reflect each individual's real access to that good. Are they able to draw benefit from it? This would recognize that individuals have different needs and that the same good, the same natural, social, or material good, could actually give different value to different individuals at the same point in time, or indeed across generations. The different value can result from different levels of access to a good or personal characteristics to be able to draw from that good. And Amartya, the economist and philosopher Amartya Sen did a lot of work on this in his conceptualization of a capabilities approach. So I'll stop there. That's a brief summary of the research plan that I hope to carry out this year, together with my mentor, Gerardo Girardi. And thank you very much to all the EFF Academy organizers today, and to Professor Sister Helen Alford and Professor Jeffrey Sachs for being with us today.
Thanks to you, Giulia, really, for this presentation. And now we go really quick. I call on stage Mariana Maria Reis. She's a PhD candidate at Cambridge University. She's a PhD candidate at Unicamp University, and she will be presenting her research project titled Green Energy Finance, Fiscal Policies in the Energy Transition from an Agent-Based Model Analysis. So, Mariana, the floor is yours.
Paolo. Thank you, Paolo, and thank you everybody for having me, especially Professor Sachs and Professor Ellen Alford. Well, the project I submitted to EOF Academy is part of a bigger project, but the contest is transiting from fossil fuel based to allow carbon economy. Everybody knows that this is very important. And we know that breaking this carbon locking situation requires a considerate amount of green energy investments. This is also very important to reach sustainable development goals as well. So this project is inspired by this framework, but this is part of a bigger project. Actually, it's part of my PhD thesis. So where first I did a complex network and topic modeling analysis of green finance literature trends. And I enjoyed this opportunity. I'd like to thank you very much, Professor Sachs, for your handbook of green finance that were very useful for me in this part. The second part of my thesis was to develop an agent-based model, especially inspired by the dystopian Keynes Mitchell pattern from Francesco Lampetti and Escola Superiore of Sant'Anna in Pisa, where I'm going to be a visiting student soon. And the third part of the project, that is what I am proposing to UF Academy, is using this ABM, this agent-based model, as a laboratory to green energy fiscal policies. Well, the project main purpose is to compare the combination of green fiscal policies focused on the energy sector and analyze its effects on energy transition and more general macroeconomic effects that can emerge from the interactions of the agents in this model. The main question is, especially if these combinations of policies, I am proposing especially the combination of a carbon tax and a mission-oriented finance policy through a public development bank, if they can accelerate this energy transition. The developing that I'm doing in its under construction is to improve the model together with the UF Academy and my supervisors, and also discuss with them a more holistic view of this project. In the intended impact is helping policymakers to make more effective actions. This is very important for transiting in a more stable and social justice way. Well, about the economy of Francesco and how the UF Academy and also the UF community is helping me. These 2 years of economy of Francesco, especially from the Energy and Poverty Village that I am part of, but also from my friends from agriculture and justice that is helping me a lot. They are helping me to have a more holistic view of the climate change problem and how the energy transition shall not only be clean, but inclusive. It is important to promote the energy transition in a way that guarantees that the poorer ones do not pay the bill. Understand the combination of these policies that can improve the effectiveness of the transition, but also look into a smooth transition. It's very important in the way that we avoid huge financial destabilizations that could impact the most the poorer ones in the poorer countries. In this way, I have discussed it with the communities and with my supervisors to introduce this holistic view of the problem to the broader thesis. And I would like to thank you very much, especially to the UF Academy, also to Unicampi, that is my alma mater school, and also to Sant'Anna School that is receiving me this year, and India, that from Italy, that is helping me with especially the policies. So thank you very much. And I also would like to thank you again, everybody here, for having me, Professor Sachs, and Ellen, Alfred, and please, you can find me by mail on the screen, and also I am on Twitter. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Mariana, really, thanks. And so now I will ask to our guest, Professor Sachs. I mean, we heard 2 interesting projects, and I would say also interconnected one with the other. So any thoughts on what Mariana and Julia has just told us?
Lots of thoughts. First, congratulations. Wonderful projects, and both extremely important. We are in need of a transition, as Mariana talked about, an energy transition, a humanity transition, a fairness transition, a sustainability transition more generally. I like to use the term sustainable development as the overarching nature of that transition that we need from the kind of economy we have now, which is an economy of wealth on average, but with shocking disparities between the rich and the poor, with huge exclusions, without the solidarity that we need and crave, and without environmental sustainability. So we need a transformation or transition to shared prosperity, social inclusion, and environmental sustainability. And to achieve that, both Julia's project and Mariana's project are very, very important. We need metrics to help guide that transition. When I was a young student, one of the founders of the National Income Accounts, Simon Kuznets, was an emeritus professor at Harvard University where I was studying. He was a wonderful, wonderful man. He had invented the national income accounts in the 1920s and 1930s, and he said to me repeatedly, Jeff, these are not measures of well-being. They are measures of the size of the economy. Do not mistake gross domestic product for measures of well-being. This is what Julia's after, measures of well-being. Now, Adam Smith talked about the wealth of nations, and there was a relationship between wealth and well-being, especially when everyone was poor. But now the links are not so clear. Wealth can also be very destructive of societies and destructive of nature. So we need measures of well-being. And I would encourage Julia's terrific project. I would encourage a couple of things for her to look at this year, Julia. One is the direct measures of so-called subjective well-being. Professor Richard Layard, Lord Richard Layard at LSE, and I and Professor John Helliwell each year publish the World Happiness Report, where we use a psychological statistic called the Cantril Index, asking people, how is your life? How do you evaluate life? It's an extremely important and interesting question to ask all over the world because people give very, very insightful answers. We learn that a lot of people are suffering. We learn that wealth is not the same thing as well-being. Well-being comes from having material life that is sufficient for sure, but also social connections, honest government, a capacity to make choices, generosity in the society, physical health. All of these are important. So using people's own reports of subjective well-being can be extremely insightful. Then I would also be very keen to have you look at the Sustainable Development Goals themselves, because those are measures of the future we want, that all nations have agreed to. Hunger, poverty, exclusion from school, exclusion from healthcare, lack of access to digital connectivity, safe water, or electricity. These are indicators of real deprivation. If you analyze progress or lack of progress to the Sustainable Development Goals, I think you'll learn a lot about where thriving is taking place and where people are suffering, because we need everybody to be able to achieve those goals. Mariana's work is extremely important because we know that for planetary safety, for protecting the creation, as Pope Francis has told us in Laudato Si, we need a global plan that reflects our global interdependence to protect nature. And we know specifically we need that energy transition to zero carbon energy no later than 2050. So Mariana's agent-based models can help to understand what policies will get us to the 2050 need, our necessity of decarbonization in a fair and inclusive and reliable way. So I'm very excited to see the progress on both these very important research areas. And congratulations to Julia and Mariana for this very important work and for choosing such crucial topics.
Perfect. Thank you, Professor. Also on their behalf, I thank you for this comment. And I will ask the very same question to Professor Lenalfer. She's from Rome, and so you heard these two projects and also Professor Sachs' comment upon them. What are your, what are the points that you think are important to stress about and to develop about these projects?
Well, thank you, Paolo, and all the Economy of Francesco team for this wonderful opportunity to dialogue with young economists. And that's really the first thing I'd like to say. It's in the dialogue, the listening, the openness to the other, the exchange of gifts, as John Paul talked about it, that we can really start to move from the already of economic thinking now to the not yet of the economics of Francesco in the future. These projects are all working very well within the already. They are using some of the most advanced and up-to-date economic tools and techniques at our disposal. but they are making use of them in a way that starts moving us towards the not yet. And I'd like to make a comment about all of them to start off with, which is that what I see the key learning coming out from these projects is that they're trying to help us reconnect the final goals of life. What does it mean to live a good life? What does happiness mean? What is a successful community? All these kinds of really basic final goals that are important to us, reconnect them with the ways of achieving them, especially the economic ways of achieving them. And I say that because we need to move beyond the Enlightenment synthesis, which has been so important to us in the Western world and has completely dominated economic thinking, because economics is born during the Enlightenment. So it absorbs, it adopts this philosophical synthesis. And in terms of what we're talking about now, the key element is that the Enlightenment thinkers pushed all the final goals, the really important goals that we're talking about, the good human life, what does society mean, and so on. They pushed all that decision into the private sphere. And what was left for the public sphere, for the community to discuss, was the ways of achieving those final goals, so that everybody was free to achieve their final goals. The only thing we talked about was the ways of achieving them. Now, that synthesis made sense in relation to the problems the world was facing 250 years ago when it was developed. You know, a bit like Professor Sachs was just saying before, economic wealth and well-being were quite well connected because people were poor. Now we're in a different situation and the connection between them is a lot more complicated. We know that the Enlightenment synthesis had some great advantages, you know, that we still benefit from. But in relation to the problems we have now, where we have to find a common way to deal with our climate crisis, where we have to find solutions to social exclusion, to exploitation, to the throwaway society that Pope Francis has been talking to us about. This kind of thinking is completely inadequate. We have to find a way to bring the meaning and purpose back into our economies in order to resolve the problems we face. And these 4 wonderful projects help us do that. So I'd just like to make a few comments about Julia's and Mariana's now. So Julia asked us, should the value of all valuable things be measured? It's a really good question. I think one of the crucial things we will need to do in moving from the already of economic thinking now to the not yet of future economic thinking is to develop a different relationship to measurement. And Professor Sachs was already talking about that when he was mentioning how Kuznets emphasized to him that GDP was not about well-being. I think Julia's question makes me think of 2 phrases, both of which are true. The first phrase is, if it isn't counted, it doesn't count. And that phrase is about the means that we've been talking about, creating and working, and the how questions. But there's also another phrase which is also true. The things that really count can't be counted. These are the goals that we want to achieve, you know, the good human life and so on. And I think the really great thing about Julia's project is she's trying to work in the tension between those 2 true phrases. Her project is about coming up with a better way of counting, one that takes account of both means and goals. And I think the other important thing to say, and she's very aware of it, I know, is that we have to accept that we're on a journey as regards measurement. Professor Sachs talked about GDP, and we today hear loads of criticisms about GDP, and we know it's full of weaknesses. But we should remember that that indicator was developed in the depths of the Great Depression to help political leaders just try to cope with the situation. And compared to what they had before, the measures they had before, it was a big step forward. Okay, so we need to see our efforts today, which are very small and often not very effective. We need to see our efforts in that sense too. Julia's project will help us take the next step forward in the struggle to find better indicators, better at helping us cope with the problems we must face today. And then a word about Mariana's project. It's dealing with another crucial issue, very, very important in Laudato Si, what we could call structural sins. These structural problems that we have inherited, in her case specifically infrastructure that locks us in to carbon dependence. We continue to carry forward this infrastructure. We continue to work with it, build it, so on, even though, paraphrasing the words of St. Paul, we know that what we are doing is the very thing we hate when we do that. We're kind of stuck in this structure of sin. Now, Mariana's project models the effects of fiscal incentives to help free us from this structural sin, to guide our action in a different direction. And in using the DSK model, she is participating in the great work that many are now doing, using these very advanced and powerful macroeconomic modeling techniques to help us identify how we should set up and run our economies, and what could be useful economic and fiscal policies that could help us move in that direction. Again, we're connecting means with ends in this project. And I have to mention here Franciscan Fryer, since we're talking about Economy of Francesco, who did a wonderful project for me, connecting a stock flow consistent model with principles of the common good. So these great projects, Giulia's, Mariana's, Fra Roberto's, these are great projects helping us to move forward to the not yet of the economics of Francesco.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Halper. So let's move to the second part of this roundtable. And you see that after 2 years of Economy of Francesco, we did a lot of also projects like the Economy of Francesco School, the Economy of Francesco Academy, and there are also a lot of special issues on scientific journals coming out on the Economy of Francesco. And one of the most interesting is coming out in the Journal of Spirituality, Management and Religion. And our third speaker, Marta Bicho, she's professor at IPEM in Lisbon. With her colleagues, Emma Carvalho, they will be part of this special issue. They have their paper accepted, and they are going to give us, in 5 minutes, a very short inkling on what the paper is about. Their presentation is, I read, the social entrepreneurs perceive success by integrating cognitive mapping and MCDA techniques. So Marta, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Paolo, for the invitation, also for the Economy of Francesco organizers, and to Professor Ellen and also to Professor Jeffrey. So my name is Marta Bicho, and I will present you today the article Social Entrepreneurs Perceived Success by Integrated Cognitive Mapping and MCDA Techniques, which is co-authored with Emma Carvalho. So we strongly believe this study is important to the Economy of Francesco mission, since social enterprises are important enterprises to solve and to tackle some of the social and environmental issues that have been discussed here in this conference. Also, by understanding how social enterprises work and by providing them additional tools, we also help them to develop more resources and also to be more successful. So the aim of this study is to understand how the social entrepreneurs envision success. To do so, the goal is to develop a framework to assess success among social entrepreneurs. This study is important because the dual nature of social enterprises, the social and also the financial goals, brings crucial challenges regarding the tensions to which objectives to address. And therefore, success is harder to attain and also to assess. In addition, it is important because the social entrepreneur might interpret success in different ways. Since social entrepreneurs are the decision makers of social enterprises, they are the actors responsible for implementing and for monitoring the operations, social impact, and also effectiveness. And above all, they are the ones who interact and also that communicate with a number of stakeholders, being customers, shareholders, policy makers. And by understanding how they perceive success, it is possible to understand a small fraction of what their managerial reality is. Thus, this research aims to respond to this gap of knowledge by investigating social enterprises' perceived path to success. So it gives voice to social entrepreneurs' notion of success and applies this very new methodology, which is the combination of cognitive mapping and Macbeth techniques that actually help to capture success criteria's complexity. So cognitive mapping is a way of understanding a person's reasoning about a certain issue through mapping, and Macbeth is a technique which uses qualitative judgments to create a scale that end up with some numerical options. Why this approach is very interesting, it's because it's more humanistic and also constructivist, since it's a process-oriented and also based on the learning process of the social entrepreneurs. So we gathered with them and we asked them, what is success for you? So also in terms of methodology, so it's divided in 3 sessions. So we have 3 sessions with the social entrepreneurs, namely the structuring and the evaluation phase, which are developed with the social entrepreneurs. So, and the last phase is the recommendation phase, which is done by the researcher. But the bottom line is that everything was done with the social entrepreneurs. So in the first session, the social entrepreneurs were asked to build a cognitive map based on the question, based on your values and experience, what should be the goals and characteristics of what a successful social enterprise? So the social entrepreneurs discussed together what success meant for them. And for them, success means entrepreneurs' characteristics, validation, financial sustainability, business model, and social impact. And these were the 5 clusters that emerged from the study. Entrepreneurs' characteristics are the personal characteristics and personality of the person that started or run the organization. And social entrepreneurs believe that the entrepreneur have to have several essential characteristics in order to the organization to achieve success. In turn, validation is the experimentation of the product or of the service. So the actual interest and loyalty of the users and the effective results measurement. Financial sustainability is the financial part of the company, meaning profit, financial measurement, availability for the entrepreneur to live exclusively from the company's activity, and also external financial support.
Marta, 1 minute left, so I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Go. Yeah.
So then the business model, how the legal form of the organization and the social impact, of course, how the enterprise benefits the society. So we also try to rank these 5 clusters, and we realized that the most important for the social entrepreneurs is financial sustainability, then social impact, then validation, and that entrepreneurs' characteristics, and only finally the business model. So more than 50% of the success of the social enterprise is comprised by financial sustainability and also social impact. Can you please move on? So we try to also to ensure the quality of our results, and we conducted several tests for it. So finally, in answering to our research question, how do social entrepreneurs envision success? So success is for them a result of 5 indicators. As I said, entrepreneurs' characteristics, validation, financial sustainability, business model, and social impact, where financial sustainability is seen for them as the most important indicator. The reason for that is without financial sustainability, we cannot impact anyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta, and sorry for interrupting you, but here we're running out of time. So finally, we have our first speaker, Valentina Rotondi. She's a familiar face of Economy of Francesco. She's a researcher at SUPSI University Lucano and associate researcher at Oxford University. This year we have coordinated together the Economy of Francesco School. Vale, you have something very interesting to tell us about, so I mean, please, go on.
Ciao, Paolo, and thank you so much for this great opportunity. And thank you, Professor Sachs and Professor Harford, for your time. I'm more than honored to have this opportunity to share with you my research, finally. So let me start by telling you that for me, the economy of Francesco and its economics, the economics of Francesco, has been a life-changing event. After 2 years at EOF, I clearly understood that doing research is not only my job, it's my vocation. That's why, as for any vocation, I also changed the way I used to present myself. Before reading Pope Francis' letter, I was used to define myself as a social scientist trained as an economist. And now, after 2 years, I'd rather define myself as a social scientist trained as an economist of Francesco. So let's start by briefly explore one of my research. So parenthood is probably the most prominent transition people go through during their lifespan. The literature, we should move the slides, by the way. The literature clearly indicates, the next one, that this transition has often substantial consequences in terms of careers and job prospects, especially for women. From an economic perspective, Becker argued that the children increase, move slides, the relative return of home activities with respect to market activities. As a result, they reduce their parents' productivity by diverting their attention and efforts away from their job. Moreover, the common wisdom usually associates the presence of young children in the household with lower participation rates and hours worked, mainly for women, so that mothers' effort and productivity on the job might fall. Nevertheless, work and family roles can be allies rather than enemies. In this project, we claim that parenthood in general and motherhood in particular could constitute a period of professional growth in which the arrival of a new baby enhances a set of social virtues that in no other circumstance in life are so needed. These newly acquired social virtues might ultimately enhance parents' productivity in the workplace. But what exactly do we mean by social virtues? Social virtues flourish within a relationship of mutual assistance between two or more people helping each other in the joint enterprise of cultivating their characters. In other words, they are virtues which are predicated to the first person plural, the we, where this we constitutes both the good reached and the way to reach it. So social virtues have been acknowledged as important for the productivity in the workplace. They foster trust and trustworthiness, they reduce the transaction costs, and improve social skills that ultimately enhance exchange based on mutual advantage. Those intangible skills and virtues are in fact increasingly required by companies which are operating in high-paid jobs. So how do we think that parenthood in general and motherhood in particular improve social virtues, therefore improving productivity on the workplace? There are a host of behavioral and theoretical mechanisms which might sustain our claim. Let's, however, stick on one. The answer we give is here, is in our brain. Parenthood implies structural brain changes. In mothers, much of these transformations involve reductions in gray matter volumes in regions observing social cognition. Also, father's brain is sensitive to childcare experiences. The literature shows that primary caregiving fathers exhibit high amygdala activation similar to mothers. In the amygdala in particular, a high concentration for receptors of hormones like the oxytocin usually increase during pregnancy and childcare, similar to what happens during romantic love. So the amygdala is part of the limbic system of the brain and helps in processing memory, but also in driving emotional reactions and social silences. Furthermore, the amygdala is positively correlated with cooperation, improving labor market prospects. So how do we test the hypothesis that parenthood increases social virtues, therefore increasing productivity? Of course, testing this hypothesis is not easy because it implies taking care of the issue of reverse causality and endogeneity. So we adopt a multi-method approach which envisages 4 working packages. Next slide, in working package 1, we theoretically delve into the relationship between motherhood and social virtues by resorting on the methods of philosophical conceptual analysis. In working paper 2, we focus on the perception of mothers with respect to their children and the social virtues by using the methods of qualitative sociology. In working paper 3, we envisage to perform a longitudinal neuroeconomic experiment. And in working paper 4, we use a randomized controlled trial to test the hypothesis of how can we improve social virtues. So finally, why is this relevant for EOF? This project shows that taking care of someone else, of other people, that thinking as a we is also good for the economy. A labor market in which 50% of the population, women, are left behind is a world that works in half. So forgetting social virtues means accepting an infertile labor market, which leaves aside part of humanity. And for us at EOF, this cannot be enough. So thank you so much for this time.
Thanks to you, Valentina. Really very, very interesting. So we're running out of time, so I have to ask to our senior scholars 1 minute comment on what they have just heard, and this time we will start from Elena, Professor Alford. So.
Thank you very much, Paolo. Yes, well, I think the first thing I would say about Marta's project is just how striking it is that we're talking about social entrepreneurs, we're talking about people who we might think of representing the not yet of the future economy, and yet the number one factor that comes out is financial sustainability. And I think that, to me, that says how absolutely fundamental economic well-being is to achieving good social outcomes. And we should never forget that. You know, as Marta said, if we don't have financial sustainability, all the other things that the social entrepreneurs want to do won't happen. So this very, very important element that we have to build as a foundation, if you like, the economic well-being is the foundation of the house. If we only have economic well-being, we don't have a house. If we only have the economic foundation, we don't have the house, and we have the separation between the means and the goals. As before, the social entrepreneurs want to connect the goals and the means, but they have to take really a lot of care of the means. And I think Valentina's beautiful project there's so much to say about it. I'm so glad to see economists revising Gary Becker's notorious approach to the family, for instance. And I think this renaissance of the idea of virtues in economics, in her paper, she talks about St. Thomas, and I'm so happy as the Dominican sister to see that, because he has so much to teach us about virtues today. 2 last points about it. She talks about human beings as embodied. And I think in a society where we're forever being told that AI is going to do more than we can and be better than us, it's really important to remember the factors of embodiment on us, which AI is never going to have. And secondly, in Europe now, we are facing a demographic crisis. And this kind of research, which shows that economic welfare and economic well-being can go forward with fertility and having children and taking care of, is crucial for the future of the good of this part of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now, Professor Sachs, telegraphic 1 minute comment.
Absolutely. I very much appreciate that both projects use the key words social entrepreneurs and social virtues. It takes us back 2,350 years ago to Aristotle, when he said that human beings are social animals, and our good depends on society. With Marta's wonderful project, I'd ask her in the next step to advise the social entrepreneurs what should their goals be for the social impact that they're aiming for. And for Valentina's fantastic project, social virtues also remind us very much of this great Aristotelian and Thomistic framework that virtue is at the center of our economic and social life and decency. We cannot achieve the good life without cultivating the virtues. The idea that parenthood is a period of growing, not only nurturing the child, but nurturing the parents, is an extremely wonderful idea, an important one to develop to help us build the economy of Francesco.
I couldn't agree more. And now I have to conclude. I cut my conclusion, but the fact that we are out of time is just a sign of generosity of the speakers. So I thank Valentina, Giulia, Mariana, and Marta, and I thank Professor Jeffrey Sachs and Ellen Alford. And I'll see you in Assisi next year when we will do 100 roundtables of the economics of Francesco, not just one. Goodbye.
Smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart. The people gonna treat you better. They're gonna find, yes you will, that you're beautiful as you feel. face and show the world all the love in your heart. The people gonna treat you better. They're gonna find, yes you will, that you're beautiful. That you're beautiful. That you're beautiful as you are.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. And now, Karen is a young researcher of the EOF Academy. Recently, she told us, a lot has been written about India, but much less from India. We are now connecting with her. She is in Bengaluru. So let's see. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Hello. Hello. I'm good.
For this year's event, the UF Hub in your country prepared a meeting entitled Learnings from India, What We Know About Social Entrepreneurships. So Karen, why this topic?
Well, it's when we conceptualized our India Hub, we were mindful of the incredible diversity our country has been blessed with, of language, religion, race, culture. And what perhaps is special about India is that we as a country, right from our inception as an independent nation, recognize the presence of injustice. And we set forth a constitution that is more than a legal document, a charter to correct economic and social injustice. So while we have challenges like poverty and inequality, the people of India have, for the most part, tried to correct this and strived for inclusive growth. But many of the learnings and insights that we have had on this journey remain within India. Now, Pope Francis referred to our local context as workshops of hope for creating new ways of understanding the economy and progress. And we wanted our India Hub to be this, a workshop of hope. So what the India Hub will be doing is this. We are inviting Indian academics who have actively participated in either Indian economic public policy or engaged with social entrepreneurships and so on. And these exchanges will help young Indians from the economy of Francesco, of course, but also other young scholars, young social entrepreneurs from across the globe to join us in these sessions. And the idea of the India Hub is to be in keeping with Pope Francis, who in his convening letter of the economy of Francesco, he visualized the process of global change that is occurring here to be one in which all men and women of goodwill, beyond differences of creed and nationality, can participate, inspired by an ideal of fraternity, attentive above all to the poor and excluded. So we've started small, but this is what we're planning to do.
Thank you so much, Karen, and greetings from Assisi.
Yeah. Do you want me to elaborate a little on the session that we already had?
Economics in the Age of Commons was the theme of the first EOF summer school held in Gubbio a month ago. Let's see together some pictures and listen to the protagonists of that event.
I'm Isaac Stanley. I'm from London. I've recently finished work as a senior researcher at a think tank focused on local economic development in the UK, and I'm about to start a PhD in social anthropology at the London School of Economics.
My name is Maria Jure. I come from Norway, Oslo. I am 31 years old. I'm educated as a clinical psychologist, but right now I'm doing a PhD project where I study a local effort in northern Bangladesh.
Hi, my name is Nayeli Perez Negron. I'm from Mexico and I'm right here at Gubbio at the economy of Francesco.
My name is Michał Kłosowski. I'm from Poland. I live in Warsaw.
I'm doing my PhD on Santa Croce University in Rome, and I'm working in Warsaw and Paris as an editor of one of the monthly magazines in Poland.
Very often when we think about economics, we think about the material side of existence. We think about people trying to get the best price, get the best deal. Economics is associated with a part of our life which is not about moral considerations, it's about getting out there and getting the best deal you can. But this is a very partial view of what economic life is all about. And if we sort of think more carefully about our everyday experiences in the material world, and if we look at different societies and different times in history and different traditions of thought, we find that there's a lot more sophisticated ways to think about economic life, to think about how we relate to each other in the material world. And more, as I've been working in this kind of practical world of trying to push things forward, trying to change things for the better, I've felt that there's a need to step back, there's a need to look at the meaningful dimension of some of this if we do want to really change the way we think about it and change the way we act. So I've been encouraged to return to the discipline that I studied in undergraduate, social anthropology, and to look at the economy through that lens.
I'm a founder and president of a foundation. We help kids with cancer all over Mexico. I'm a lawyer. Right now we're studying economics, and my master's is about theology. I hope to combine all this knowledge to make a difference in my country. When you don't have education, it's really difficult to improve and to help others. Studying is just an opportunity to be better and to try to give that knowledge to the people that is around me, so they can also help me to interact with other people and to just grow a better community.
I study how folk musicians in rural parts teach vanishing musical traditions to children and youths. So I interview them. It's a qualitative study. I explore with them their experiences, and a main topic is the human voice and the meaning of expressing oneself. And it's also a work which includes both girls and boys, Hindus and Muslims, elders and young. The main challenge is the climate crisis. They live in parts that are very close to river and the sea, so they struggle with floods becoming bigger every year and also periods of droughts.
Well, communication is everywhere. Right now, the communication is the crucial part of every social, political, economical change. You can develop even the best ideas even, but if you want to be able to communicate it in a good manner, in the best possible way, if you won't be able to connect with your audience, you won't be able to make the change happen. So that's why I am trying to study communication.
Of course, now in the pandemic, it's been a huge obstacle that I have not been able to go to Bangladesh. So I have had to interview them online. But other than that, I have experienced very great generosity. They're very proud of their traditions. They've been very happy to talk about what they do.
The situation for kids with cancer in Mexico, it's really bad because the government cut the support, but we are really hopeful. I believe that with education, we can do better things. And women in my country, they're not really close to that kind of education. My dream will be just to be a part of something that really makes a difference for them, so I can empathize with them. I think it's all about education, but not only for the people that have not that kind of opportunity, but also to the people that have that opportunities. Sometimes when the people is well prepared, like in the best universities, they just don't get prepared about the soul, the fraternity that we all need in this world.
My dream now as a researcher is, of course, to get my findings published, and hopefully that many people will read it and connect with the work that I'm doing. So the Economy of Francesco, for me, it's a meeting place, a place to connect with other researchers from all over the world that also wants to take part in changing the world in a concrete way and use the research for something greater than just academia.
History is no fiction. Providence speaks to us also through concrete events. The spirit is blowing through a merchant contract and an artisan shop. In economics and in every complex sphere of life, both the economic activity that kills and the one that generates life are intertwined daily, at all times, everywhere. Only those who know how to enter the living marrow of this interweaving and do so out of love for their people can be at the service of the economy and of life. Because every time we demonize the economy, we leave it in the hand of demons. The economy of Francesco knew all this. The economy of Francesco knows this.
Sycamore history of enterprise in the shape of a tree.
Siamo a Matera, in una piccola regione.
We are in Matera, in a small region, Basilicata, that the world discovered only a few years ago. Nobody knew where Matera was. Now, thanks to tourism, the city is reinventing itself from a series of poverty, because Basilicata is a small region in a south that is often forgotten, south of Italy. It is difficult to emerge because it is hard to find a context where we can grow. You are accepted and acknowledged when you are small, when you are underneath, but when you begin to look up, you become dangerous. The cooperative Sycomoro in this tries to be a bloc that fights against this, and we really believe in this, starting from young people who decide to go back here, because thanks to enterprises like ours, there are so many small enterprises that try to create this fertile ground. Here we have a piece, a great representative of what represents the cooperative Sycomoro for the town. Some of the young people, migrants that welcome, the elderly in the houses, the children we follow in their afternoon activities. We have Said with the tomatoes he's used in his restaurant that was born together with cooperative. We have Kinsley, who cultivates some spices that will be used for enterprise. This is the summary of everything that Sycomoro does and that tries to tell to the rest of the town.
Qui siamo a Panecotto.
Here we are at Panecotto, an ethical restaurant. It tells our world to be social, a restaurant that works. People come here not because it is social, but because people work well. Said is one of them. Said was born here. This restaurant was born around Said. He got here when he was 13. He told us his will to work in the kitchen, so that's why the cooperative decided to make this place live. Now Said began to work here, and now he is the chief of the place. I'm Egyptian. I came in Italy when I was 13, and I came to Matera when I got to know this social enterprise. I've been working here for the last 6 years. Now I'm the chief of the place, and as I have many local products, also with the zero productivity, we lack the craftsmanship, and we had this fantastic idea because as we have everything with 0 kilometers, all products, local products, we lacked the product made in Matera with malt from here. We opened this brewery that is part of the cooperative and gives us more strength because makes us understand that we are able to open more activities and have even more business. And the value added of this place is to grow within a network of services offered by the cooperative in Sycomoro, because on its own it wouldn't live. There are the elderly who cultivate spices, there are projects for migrants that feed the activities on the ground. It's all a network of people who, although they work in different projects with different goals, they share the same goals. So we are spilling the best beer of Matera. Your health.
Allora, iniziamo a camminare.
Let's begin to walk, being like soulfish.
Sono Vecchi Carlo di Matera.
I am from Matera. I was born on April 30th of 1930, resident of Sycomoro, of the house for the elderly. They treat us well. I'm the supervisor. We lack nothing. We live with our friends. We are all a family.
Grazie, Luca, Said, and to all our
Thank you, Luca.
Thank you so much. And before connecting with our next EOF hub, let me just send some greetings to our friends of Brazil that are gathered in 3 EOF hubs, to our friends in Cartagena, Cuba, Mexico. Greetings to you all. And now, let's connect with the next EOF hub. We are now going to Portugal, and there is Manuel in Lisbon. So, hello, Manuel. Tudo bem?
Olá. Sim, tudo bem. Hi, everyone. Thank you for organizing this wonderful event. Thank you for having us. It's a privilege to have the opportunity to speak to you today. The Portuguese Hub is gathered in the Varatojos Convent, which is a Franciscan one in Lisbon or near Lisbon, to think about what we have done until now and what our future priorities should be. Going back in time, our hub began to be formed in September 2020 after an online course promoted by the Portuguese Association of Entrepreneurs and Managers. In November, at the time of the first international event, we launched a website and social media profiles and organized summaries of the day at the end of each day of the event. Since then, we have made several partnerships and had a course organized by us on the economy of Francesco. One of the partnerships was with the European Anti-Poverty Network in Portugal, where the poverty group was born. And this is the work and team I'd like to talk to you about right now. So the EIPN challenge to the Portugal Hub was to intervene about poverty in Portugal on their annual conference. And because of that, we saw that it was an opportunity to learn more about this topic, to create awareness about it and promote initiatives that fight it. So we created a team to overcome this challenge. And in the end, we created a document with the summary of our discussions. Of course, we learned about Portugal's specific situation, but we'd like to highlight three topics that may apply globally. So firstly, the social sector could see a lot of improvements if it was more professionalized and its organizations worked more often together to be more efficient despite their leaders' and workers' passion. This also means that we need to value the social sector's jobs more and be more demanding in selecting the adequate profile for each role, for the best people, the best person for each role. Then we concluded on the importance of education to fight poverty. It is the best weapon that we have to fight poverty. And one idea that we have is the development of more practical or technical curricula complements the traditional one in university and high school, for instance, and it could motivate more people not to give up studying. Finally, it's vital to fight prejudice and indifference towards the poor globally. After this effort, we reflected on what should be our main goal going forward as a group that is part of the Economy of Francesco Portugal Hub, and concluded it is to involve as many people as possible on the path to fight poverty, build bridges, and close gaps. Nowadays, we are 12 people divided in 3 teams. A team that is focused on communication and awareness, other on organizing workshops with university students about solutions to fight poverty. And last but not least, another one dedicated to organize conferences and events like this one we are having today. So stay tuned for news about us and our activities soon. And if there are other countries and hubs thinking about poverty, please get in touch with us.
Obrigada. And thank you to all of the EOF Hub of Portugal. And you know, they just mentioned a very clue word that made me just think about a new San Francisco tweet moment. It was poverty. So let me just write. There was a new face of Madonna, poverty to love. Blah, blah, blah. Tweet. And if you want to discover what it says, please visit our Twitter page.
It's our current state of affairs, and it's us following the old same mistakes, and now in a current still there.
Guarda, lo riconosci? Quanti monti di pietà simili a questo sono nati dai nostri fratelli. Madonna Povertà è stata così, una sposa così feconda da aver generato anche banche diverse nate per i poveri. Solo un amore così folle per la povertà poteva generare delle banche. Se ce l'avessero detto allora non ci avremmo creduto, e invece centinaia di monti in tutta Italia.
Parassitismo, sfruttamento, diseguaglianze. Noi conoscevamo il dolore e i veri bisogni della gente. C'era un nuovo volto di Madonna Povertà da amare. E così lottammo contro l'usura, facemmo nascere nuove istituzioni bancarie. Una nuova finanza per raggiungere gli esclusi.
Non enti di beneficenza, quindi, ma delle vere banche?
Delle vere banche, sine merito, per i poveri. La mia vocazione di francescano è stata far nascere i monti. Non mi sono dato pace, ho speso i miei anni migliori per questo. Per risollevare i poveri, gli indifesi, gli abbandonati, promuovendo i monti per loro. E quante critiche, ricordo ancora, quante critiche ho dovuto sopportare. Ritorna in convento, lascia queste cose a noi mercanti, non sono cose che ti riguardano. No, io sentivo che era Francesco e il suo amore per la povertà a chiedermelo.
I had nothing left. A fire had destroyed my butcher shop. I needed a loan urgently, But whom could I ask? The banks in Perugia? All users, loan sharks. So who? I started to beg among the poor of the city. I became friends with beggars whom only a few days before I was chasing away from my shop. And finally, I understood them. One day I met Brother Michael during one of his visits to the city. I told him my story, and shortly thereafter, a Monte di Pietà was born. For me, for poor people like me, for those whom no one sees or listens to. What greater love could there be than this? In the end, I was able to rebuild my butcher shop, to make a decent living for my children and my wife, to leave the house without shame, and to stop begging. I still remember that day, the feast, or at least the procession we made through the city for the creation of the Monte di Pietà. We left from the church of St. Francis. We crossed the streets of the city like we do for the patron feast or the procession of Corpus Christi. For us, the bank that was being established was a sign of God's love for us. And we, the poor, were in the front row next to the young women dressed in white. What greater love than a bank for the poor? Love and banks, God and money, the poor and mortgages. Francis knew how to convert not only the wolf, but also banks and money. He turned them into his allies with his passion for Lady Poverty.
Chi aiuta uno fa bene, chi due meglio. Il monte aiuta molti.
Those who help one do good, two even better. The amount of piety is so much. If you give money to the poor so that he can buy bread or shoes, when he will spend the money, everything is over. But if you give that money to the amount of piety, you help more people, building churches, buying liturgy books, vestments, chalices for the Mass is a holy thing, but offering money to the amount of piety is even more holy. Not to spend money in stones and lime into churches, because everything will go up in smoke, but what will not be lost, that is giving Christ to the poor.
Therefore, the birth of the Monte di Pietà, this wonderful and meaningful Franciscan story, has something important to tell us today. Our event's third topic, raising the poor, in front of an economy that increases poverty, one can and must respond by creating an alternative economy, able to reduce poverty. In the next story, we will hear an example of a community who tries to do this.
Through the economy of Francesco, we connected with other realities. Young change makers spread around the world.
Through this, we understood and we realized the potential of building bridges to alleviate or relieve some pains, putting in common our abilities, our professions, and our vocation.
Many communities have entrepreneurial and financial pains. They produce, but they suffer to have a good balance in their cash flow. Seeing that we are from Financial and Humanity Village, we decided to look more deeply into those realities and understand if and how we could help.
And being from the Finance and Humanity Village, we decided to look deeper into those realities and to understand what specific needs existed and how and if we could help them.
Hola, yo soy Karenia. Yo soy Somos un matrimonio que pertenece a la comunidad del Caney.
We're a family, and we are here in the province of Santiago, and we are here working with natural products. So we cook with all natural products that we produce, and what we try to do is to take care of all the various moments of the production of our products. This is a service that we have been organizing since a few years. It's a dream that we had to work on our own and to have something to offer to our communities. A community where everybody can place at the service of others their talents and
we started exchanging ideas and experiences to connect with those realities.
We reunited different specialists in finance, entrepreneurship, project management, design, and others to start a new project to offer financial education and entrepreneurship classes to the people who live in family farms in Amazonia, in Brazil, Nigeria, and Cuba. Now, we are finishing the materials to start the records of the online classes. But don't you think that it's just this? We will capacitate local facilitators to become a support to the communities during the classes.
For us, this is much more than one project. This is a global connection. It's a network to build the common good, to bring the economy of Francesco to life in our own communities.
Thank you guys for sharing this amazing project. And now let's continue with our program, which I remind you will be concluded with the words of Pope Francis. In the meantime, we have been getting a lot of messages on our social media channels, on YouTube chat. So let me just read a couple of them. There is Rosity Scrooger who says, "It is amazing to see all these different and important projects all over the world. Greetings from Campinas, Brazil." Then there is Ivo Arcangeli. "Posso dire di non aver mai visto un protagonismo di giovani responsabili."
I can say that I've never seen such an involvement of young people with such quality and energy. Congratulations, and we are with you.
Messages. And now, from Assisi, we are now moving to the US because we have just connected with Elizabeth from Michigan. So, hello, Elizabeth. In the invitation to join the UF meeting in the US, one headline really struck us. Are you seeing what we are seeing? We hear you with pleasure.
Thank you so much. Hello from Detroit. I'm happy to greet every one of you on behalf of our hub in the United States, where we're tuning in from across the country this morning. Here we feel we are really at a moment of reckoning around the environmental and the social injustices that have originated and been perpetuated by our dominant economic paradigm. We see that this top-down financial markets view of the economy in the United States really fails to support human flourishing and care for our common home. And so the economy of Francesco really has inspired us to create spaces for dialogue, especially about the ways that our current approaches to financial investing and money management need to change in order to really respond to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. Starting last year, we began gathering many different groups and people across North America to imagine the ways that we can disrupt finance as usual and help restore reciprocity in the areas of business and finance. And one thing we're learning from the Franciscan sisters who have gotten involved in our US hub is that this journey is a process of continual conversion. And I want to say that as an American, I lament the harms that our country's economic paradigm and military-industrial complex have inflicted around the world. And given our history and in humility, I appreciate your openness to receiving a few words of hope today. Despite the ways that we're continuing to expand extractive relationships where we give more than we take, and environmentally harmful practices in agriculture, real estate, banking, and other sectors, we are seeing signs of a new economy growing. Through our hub, we started a newsletter called Ownership Matters to help share the stories of new social enterprises and the change makers that are building them and the investors that are supporting them. These enterprises, which are often cooperatives and employee-owned businesses, are close to the ground, and so sometimes it's easy to miss them. but they are growing, and they are quietly restructuring relationships between community and capital. For example, the Industrial Commons, which is a cooperative we're working with in North Carolina, is really beginning to embody care for creation by repurposing all the materials they use in their textile manufacturing process. They humanize and give ownership and agency to hundreds of workers, valuing their insights. And this economic sovereignty is an embodiment of human dignity and the dignity of work. We're learning from the Comparte network of Jesuit-connected institutions in Latin America and in Spain that we can capture and measure these sentiments of economic sovereignty and include them in the data that our governments collect to understand whether policies and programs contribute to the well-being of society. One significant challenge that we've decided to focus on in our US hub is the need for Catholic institutions, often those with significant financial resources, to wrestle with the ways that their investments and their investment holdings are complicit with present-day economic harms. Today, faith-based organizations around the world manage trillions of dollars in assets, and many of them are Catholic institutions. So we are beginning with helping Catholic investors to see the solidarity economy investment opportunities that are emerging. We invite investors to ask this question: am I stewarding my resources responsibly, in alignment with my values, and in ways that contribute to love of neighbor and care for creation? Through our hub, we are bringing together these investors alongside entrepreneurs that are building cooperative enterprises, students and professors creating new frameworks for the economy, and others. And what's been our purpose? To create a culture of encounter to transform our economy. We believe that these encounters transform us and then unleash us to transform our economic system. They can open our eyes to the bold action that we have to take in our lives. And it helps us, in the words of Pope Francis, to be protagonists of transformation. We've now organized 6 gatherings with nearly 700 people and 3 workshops with 80 participants where people are building trust and dismantling the barriers to doing their most important work. We want to step into Pope Francis's invitation to build organizations that can be workshops of hope. And earlier this year, we organized a workshop for over 20 Catholic investors that we called Investing in Livable Futures. Participants included religious congregations, foundations, Catholic hospitals, and others. And we used the principles of Catholic social teaching to translate them into new investment principles that focus on engaging communities, adding more value than you take, and fairly balancing risk and return. So to ensure that these principles can help guide more capital to invest in the new economy, we've created indices and other tools to help investors evaluate how much a particular investment embodies these principles of Catholic social teaching. And grounded in this wisdom, we're asking, where and how can we take meaningful action together? Since the workshop ended, we've organized investor circles to encourage new practices and investments in solidarity economy. We are finding that the wisdom of Catholic social teaching can help us find new shared language and ways to invest in direct solutions that we really urgently need. So moving forward, we're collaborating with others to host more workshops for investors. We want to align with the Laudato Si Action Platform's theme of ecological economics to mobilize millions of people and organizations to invest in this new economy. We're seeking to accompany groups and individuals as they explore their relationship with money. What does it mean to take a modern vow of poverty? How can money be a tool for reconciliation and repair for past harms? How do we move from a worldview of scarcity to one of abundance? Our goal, to bring money into reciprocal relationship with people and planet. So in this spirit of the economy of Francesco, we want to build a movement toward changing our financial system to be at the service of an economy that's rooted in solidarity. And we invite you to join us. Do you know someone who might want to participate in one of these workshops, or do you know a project or an enterprise seeking investment? Please reach out. We're very excited to partner with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And I just want to remind that if you visit our website, francescoeconomy.org, you will have the contact to all the EOF hubs around the world. I'm really excited to hear all these initiatives that you have been sharing, because as we said at the beginning, the economy of Francesco is the economy of the already. And now, let's listen to the words of Sir Partha Dasgupta.
Good afternoon.
It is a pleasure to be invited here today to speak to such an inspirational group of young economists. Over the last few decades, our species has prospered so much that our demands on nature have far exceeded its ability to supply us sustainably. In other words, we are depleting vital ecosystems by mismanaging our natural assets, undermining the biosphere's ability to provide us with the goods and services on which we all rely. At the heart of the problem lies deep-rooted institutional failure. Nature's worth to society is not reflected in the prices we pay, and we continue to draw down our natural capital stocks without paying for the consequences, which will have a negative impact on current and future generations. But while the challenges facing the modern world may seem formidable, the vision represented by the economy of Francesco gives us hope that transformative change is possible. The young economists, entrepreneurs, and activists who make up this community give new life to the study of economics. The innovative solutions you propose to the problems of today have the potential to have a worldwide impact, and I wish you the very best of luck in your endeavors. Thank you.
El gran lobo, humilde, es duro el invierno y es horrible el hambre. En el bosque helado no hallé que comer y busqué el ganado. Y en veces comí ganado y pastor. La sangre yo vi más de un cazador sobre su caballo llevando el azor al puño o correr tras el jabalí, el oso, el ciervo y a más de uno vi. Mancharse de sangre, herir, torturar, de las roncas trompas al sordo clamor, a los animales de nuestro Señor. Y no era por hambre que iban a cazar. Francisco responde, en el hombre existe mala levadura, cuando nace viene con pecado, es triste, mas el alma simple de la bestia es pura. Tú vas a tener desde hoy que comer. Dejarás en paz rebaños y gente en este país. Que Dios malefique tu ser montarás. Está bien, hermano Francisco de Asís. Ante el Señor que todo ata y desata, en fe de promesa, tiéndeme la pata. El lobo tendió la pata al hermano de Asís, que a su vez le alargó la mano. Fueron a la aldea, la gente veía, y lo que miraba casi no creía. Tras el religioso iba el lobo fiero, y baja la testa quieto le seguía, como un can de caza o como un cordero. Francisco llamó a la gente a la plaza y ahí predicó, y dijo, he aquí una amable casa. El hermano lobo se viene conmigo, me juró no ser ya vuestro enemigo y no repetir su ataque sangriento. Vosotros, en cambio, daréis su alimento. A la pobre bestia de Dios, así sea, contestó la gente toda de la aldea. Y luego, en señal de contentamiento, movió testa y cola el buen animal y entró con Francisco de Asís al convento.
Francisco called the people who gathered in the plaza, and there the wolf followed him. And everybody was happy that the wolf had decided not to kill.
See and feel the pain of Afghan women, wondering what would become of their future and their lives. We immediately felt we wanted to respond to their appeal to not be left alone. So we launched a global march that takes place every Saturday under the cry, Afghan women exist. Together we stand.
In the meantime, Nadia Gulam had joined us. Welcome, Nadia.
En el medio se nos ha sumado Nadia Gulam. Bienvenida, Nadia. Estamos muy agradecidas de tu presencia con nosotros hoy y representás las voces de muchas mujeres afganas y queremos manifestarte nuestra cercanía y te agradecemos tu energía.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias. Buenas tardes a todos. Gracias por permitirme participar de un evento tan importante. Para presentarme quiero decir que yo crecí en Afganistán. Desde muy chica mi madre me enseñó a rezar por la paz. En aquella época no sabía lo que era la paz. Los adultos de mi familia estaban muy contentos de verme rezar por la paz en todas las comunidades. Me felicitaban diciendo, excelente Nadia, esperemos que se haga
that I was living there till I became 8 years old, and the war looks for me far away because in my house, my family, my father, my brother, and me, we were living in a relaxed situation. But one day, when I was 8 years old, I had normal life, and me with my family, we were holding dinner at home. After the dinner, my mother was preparing some tea to have for after the dinner, and I went to follow her in order to discover where she is hiding the sweets. When I was behind of her, she saw me. She told me, Nadia, sit down here in this room. I will bring you sweets. I will give you. I was waiting for my mom there, that suddenly a bomb fell exactly in the room where I was, and everything destroyed, everything changed in a second. After spending 2 years in different hospitals, 6 months in coma, the Taliban regime for first time established in Afghanistan. And there I had to do something for my family. I lost my brother. My father was suffering from post-traumatic stress. And for that reason, I dressed up as a man and I started to work for my family. And I thought it is one day today's solution and everything will gonna change. But that lasts 10 years. And during the 10 years, I was dressing as a man and working to help my family and support them. Now I'm as a refugee, as an Afghan woman living in Barcelona. I start a non-profit organization, which is called Bridges for Peace. And I try to help other girls, other Afghan girls that they are living in Afghanistan and they are suffering from the same situation that I go through 10 years ago.
Thank you so much, Nadia. Thank you for your story. And after hearing you carefully, we would like to also invite you to make an appeal to the people that are following us today.
Thank you so much. For me, it's very important to say to all the people who are listening us, those people that they want to help Afghan women, that support has even weakened. A lot of women are locked down in their houses and they cannot go to follow their dreams, education. Now more than ever, it's very necessary international community help them, give them support in order they can get education and have possibility to rebuild their country, which is now more than ever, it is very important, the education for Afghan women and Afghan refugees.
Thank you so much, Nadia. We ensure that we are with you, we stand with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
There is a song for love. There's a song for word. Keep hearing this song for humanity. It went lost long time ago. All of that I say might be causing pain. All of that I am. Will it ever change?
On another occasion, Mahatma Gandhi wrote, "A man who truly practices ahimsa, nonviolence, in its fullness, has the world at his feet. He influences what is around him so much that not even snakes or other venomous reptiles can influence him." It has been said that this was the experience of St. Francis of Assisi. St. Francis preached the teachings of the Catholic Church, according to which the world was created by a God who is good and beautiful. He believed that it was the duty of all creatures to pray to God, and the duty of all men to protect and to love nature. The thought behind this belief is that man, because he is God's highest creation, is the custodian of all God's creation. This is precisely what Gandhi meant by the word trustee, that humans are the trustees of all creation.
Fighting climate change and protecting the planet for the future generations is the challenge at the heart of the upcoming United Nations conference in November. Mateusz Jasnocha from Poland, CEO of European Carbon Farmers, will attend the COP26. Hi, Mateusz. We invited you to talk about the topic, "We can transform food systems only by working together," and to share with us your view, your expertise, and the international experience you're having. So, Mateusz, I hope I'm pronouncing well your name. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lourdes, and yes, you are pronouncing my name very much the correct way. I want to start by saying what a pleasure it is to be with all of us here virtually and in Assisi and in our local EOF hubs that I will be joining later today in Poland. I know many of you will be joining in your respective countries that you are in. My remarks, I would like to divide them in three major parts. The opening remarks, then talk about the COP26 as well as other major initiatives that are happening in line with the topic of our discussion, which is let's transform food systems by working together, and then once again close with some closing remarks. what really struck me in the intercession just before me was this understanding of stewardship of nature and being a custodian of the ecosystems, which also Sir Das Gupta was referring to. Indeed, farmers and all of us are stewards of the ecosystems, are stewards of nature, are stewards of ecology and societies that we are part of. And as Pope Francis has called us to identify injustices that we are experiencing and, very importantly, stand up and do something about those, I am delighted to report we, the youth of the world, are doing precisely that. We have responded to this call. And so for the second time globally, we are able to come together and celebrate this action. So the youth have and has responded. And I am delighted to be representing many of you I know personally and I've heard about, and also those of you who I don't know, that are taking action also in this area of agriculture, but not only. We are 12 thematic villages. We maybe need more. So please join if you are not joining EOF yet, and create a village that is missing, because the poor out there, the youth is acting, but definitely more action needs to happen. The system is broken, but that action makes me believe and see with my own eyes that we are changing the world. We are true protagonists, and that is amazing. So now to put some concrete examples. Four major examples. The first one is the farm of Francesco, with Rita, Ariel, Giacomo, Caro, Federico, Natalie, Janet, Joseph, and last but definitely not least, Maria, Virginia. A answer to Pope Francis' call to address the injustice of global rural areas becoming more disconnected from the cities and degenerating the soil, as well as the communities that are making up those rural communities. Therefore, as part of the Farm of Francesco and Economy of Francesco process, we have designed and created, and now we are implementing, a network of regenerative demo farms that are addressing the injustices we feel and live firsthand with vocational education program. And I am delighted to announce on behalf of all the people mentioned and many other supporters of us that today Farm of Francesco is launching its global launching campaign. So I invite you to go to francescofarm.com and join this movement if you didn't do that already. And I believe my colleagues will be posting relevant links in the YouTube channels that we are communicating through right now. So please do that. Please get engaged. The second one is EOF Poland, where with Marcin, Kamila, Kasper, Agata, Anna Maria, Magdalena, Zofia, Anna, Julia, whom you've seen already in this global event, and Monica, we have written a report for Caritas, or with support of Caritas Poland, to promote what EOF is doing already. And this report is published by now. You can also read it and benefit from it. So I will be asking my colleagues to share those links with you. As true protagonists, we are going out to the world. We are not sticking with what is happening at the Economy of Francesco only, right? And so we have very deep engagement with the World Food Forum and the UN Food Systems Summit, in which we are transforming food systems together through master classes that Mariana, Lilian, and myself have organized with the World Food Forum, and with the dialogues and also participation at the Food Summit, or pre-summit of the UN Food Systems Summit, with the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development, and many other initiatives, EOF School, Summer School, Laudato Si Action Platform, Fratelli Tutti Political School. Off to COP. All of those things are coming to COP, where global leaders are coming together to advance consensus on climate action. We have to get to net zero by 2050, and we want to get there. All of us are invited, and the world leaders cannot get there alone. As the youth from all over the world is showing, we are in that better future of net zero, which not only responds to the leaders' call, but also to Pope Francis' call to put the poor at the very center of this action. And so I once again invite you to join all those, not all, but invite you to join whatever initiative makes sense for you within the Economy of Francesco family, or create your own initiative if something is missing. And surely things are missing. And before we run out to do all those wonderful things, I would like to suggest we take a moment to breathe and celebrate with a mate everything that we have achieved so far. Because while the world is broken, and it still is broken, it is so much better than it was 2 years ago. And all of us presenting in this event, and even more so everyone that we are representing by presenting in this event, have contributed tremendously to that. And that process continues with the COP, with other events that are happening. So let me close by saying, once again, let's take a moment to celebrate our achievements so far. There's a lot to celebrate, and today is a huge event of joy. Please join Farm of Francesco at farmfrancesco.com and support our work with living the mission Pope Francis called us to live. Look up Laudato Si Action Platform, which is an invitation by the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development for all of us to live Laudato Si in action, and take small little step to make a world a better place. And my call to action for you is meet with a farmer that is next to you.
Thank you so much,
somebody
Mateusz.
that you didn't talk with for long. I'm ending here. Thank you, Lourdes, and back to Assisi.
And all the best for the upcoming projects that you have. Okay, now I'm just coming to another St. Francis tweet moment. I'm tweeting, before an economy that increases poverty, one can and must respond by creating an alternative economy that reduces poverty. Hashtag EOF 2021 and hashtag Francesco Economy. Let's go back with Mateusz's topic, because now we are going to listen to the words of one of the Economy of Francesco friends, Vandana Shiva.
I send my loving greetings to the economists for St. Francisco. In his beautiful words, it's only in giving that we received. St. Francis captured the emerging circular economies, because it is only in giving to the earth we create food. It's only in giving to each other we create community. And through this COVID lockdown, we have realized the two most important things are healthy food for strong immunity and strong community with strong bonds and strong solidarity. This is what we've to build. St. Francis did not see other beings as objects to be owned, other humans as objects to be exploited. He saw the world as one Earth family, as I do, and that is why I work on building Earth democracy. Living economies that are the pillar of Earth democracy will be built on St. Francis's thinking. I send you greetings to build this paradigm. It's the only way humanity will survive. It is the only way we'll have a livable Earth for our species. Thank you.
Naqueles dias, o Cristo tocou curvado, estremeceu e se reanimou.
On these days, the Christ of Corcovado established,
Estendendo os braços como quem quer abraçar o mundo,
showing his arms as to hug the road, open his mouth and talk it.
bem-aventurados os que sonham com o mundo.
Well-being those who dreams in a new road and necessary,
Cabe a natureza incluída. Feliz
the nature included, happy those who loves the Mother Earth as his own mother, respect these rhythms,
possa fazer
para que that's those they can do, these nutritions,
para viver.
to flourish and to nourish the earth and the human beings. Happy those, lucky those who insist in a road that will be different, who believe in this different world, in poetry and work and music and machines and are able to recognize brothers and sisters living in the only home we have. This beautiful and lightening small root earth, Mother Earth.
Please let me just thank to Federcaste for its contribution to support the many initiatives of the economy of Francesco. And now we continue because we are ready for our latest connection with the world. We are very pleased to have with us Juan Pablo from Mexico and Ilu from Peru. Hola chicos, ¿qué tal están? Muchos saludos.
Hello guys, how are you? Greetings.
¿Qué tal, Lourdes? Un gusto.
Hello Lourdes, nice to see you.
In this day. And welcome also to Ilu. ¿Qué tal, Ilu?
Hello, buenos días. Bien. Buen día a todos y todas. En nombre de la Red Latinoamericana de
Good morning to all of you. On behalf of the Latin American Network of the Economy of Francis, I greet all of those who are participating to this event, and we thank you for this space to share about our project in our region and our research in trying to build and develop together a much more a world that is in solidarity where nobody is excluded. First of all, we want to start with recognizing the historical, linguistic, and cultural ties that unite our different peoples and that allow us to speak of Latin America as a single region, which has common problems and common difficulties, but at the same time, a great diversity and also great opportunities that lead us to develop strategies to save our common house. And it's in this context that we have been working to build a space where we actively listen to each other with depth, with attention and mercy, in order to somehow weave together networks of dialogue. Our network was born as a result of encounter and sharing based on the solidarity of a group of youngsters who felt called by Pope Francis to speak about, when he spoke about the Patria Grande, open to the world and in communion with the international reality and community. This is how we have organized meetings of the network assumed by its own members, reflecting the fact that we all are responsible and co-responsible, and we are also connecting with international realities, and this has allowed us to do many different things. On one hand, we have been able to reflect upon different themes, such as the capacity to be aware of all the internal and external processes that happen in our life. We also have been reflecting on the encyclical Fratelli Tutti, seeking to answer the following question. What needs to be changed in order to achieve an integral human development and also a health development for our creation in our countries? The reality is that our native peoples rise from the challenges that they face in persevering their environment to the enormous wealth they bring us, and we have to protect that, and we have to really protect the great richness that they bring. So it is a great deal what they can offer with their relationship with nature and also their traditions. And we also have tried to carry out regional activities within, for example, the assemblies organized by the Latin American Episcopal Council, the CELAM, and we are preparing a diploma course together with CELAM, also in collaboration with the Economy of Francis and the Latin American Technical School of Francis Economy, which is the first one in Latin America and Caribbean area, which has been organized by the network, also in collaboration with the Pontifical University of Paraná and the Pontifical University of São Paulo of Brazil, and also with the International Program on Democracy and Societies and New Economies of the University of Buenos Aires, and also with the University of San Isidro in Argentina, and the support of 15 other universities and regional organizations. And it will be taking place between the 13th and the 15th of October. And also we have been developing the first Latin American School of the Economy of Francis, which is a project that will be developed in the year 2022. All this is possible because we recognize that everything is interrelated, the academy, the work that we do at the regional level, and also everything that is connected with the new economies, among other processes. And we also recognize that we need to look for the structural conditions where the economy of Francis can give its contribution to a dignified life requires also for us to work in taking care of our common home and in collaboration with the poor of today. On the other hand, the network also has been a great space for us to look in depth about important topics with their local authorities because we know that we have to engage more and more people. And we also always have to do that at the regional and territorial level. This is not something that we can forget. And this is why it's important also to get to know other regional initiatives in other parts of the country and the world. And this is why we consider the economy of Francis is actually rooting in our countries and allows us to see our history and our future with different eyes in a hope for a better society that we hope to achieve also with our personal contribution and also with our Latin American identity. Thank you all, and we move forward together in the spirit of Pope Francis.
Gracias a toda la red de Latinoamérica. And now just
thank you to the whole Latin American.
We have, as we said, many hubs around the world. So I want to send some greetings to the Croatia and also the Cameroon, and of course to the more than 200 youth that are following this program from the Domus Pacis building. Thank you very much for the Italian hub. And yeah, now let's continue with our program.
Thank you, Lourdes, and everyone. And now we have the next session. We have here again Luca Crivelli. Welcome again, Luca. Luca is an economist at SUPSI. So, Luca, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Catalina. The next session is titled Towards a Planned Economy. I'm very pleased to introduce Professor Stefano Mancuso, the director of the International Laboratory of Plant Neurobiology at the University of Florence, and Stefano Ciliberti, a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Pisa. Benvenuti a entrambi e grazie di essere con noi oggi. The focus of Mancuso's research has been over the years the kingdom of plants, and in particular plant intelligence. We are all aware of how much economics and the business world have adopted a different model, namely the animal paradigm, based on competition, speed, freedom of movement, efficient decision-making, all qualities reminiscent of the great predators of the animal kingdom. This model has made it possible to generate innovation that has been very helpful to solve problems like the scarcity of private consumer goods and led to impressive growth and material prosperity. However, it is also at the origin of a kind of predatory capitalism that is bringing our economic system out of control. In this moment of human history, we perceive an increasing scarcity with respect to the common goods, such as water, air, and the nature. In the age of the commons, we have to deal with much more complex problems, such as climate change and declining biodiversity, so that we need to listen to the cry of the earth. Professor Mancuso, is now the time for humanity to learn something from plants? Can you explain us, please, how the economy could be enriched if we took the intelligence and the abilities of plants seriously?
Thank you. Thank you, Luca. Thank you, all of you. It's a big pleasure to have the chance to talk to this selected group of young in the world, and thank you for the subject you choose for describing this section, the plant economy. It's a very original and a fashionable way to describe what we can learn from plant. But before starting what we can learn, let's say something on plant, because probably we know very small about plant, and the small that we know, it's normally wrong. We have an idea that plants are just low-level, very simple organisms. But on the contrary, I will try to show you that plants are extremely complex, sophisticated, intelligent organisms that could be an extremely interesting subject to be inspired. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about numbers, about data. We normally look at the life as if life was the kingdom of animals. We just look at life with animals' eyes, and we just see what is similar to us because we are animals. But animals altogether represent just a teeny, irrelevant fraction of the life. How much irrelevant, it's probably not understood by many people. The whole mass of all animals together, so not humans, but mammals, reptiles, birds, fishes, all together, insects, all together, they represent just 0.3% of the biomass on the Earth. Biomass means the weight of life. So if we would be able to weigh all the life on the planet, we would see that animals represent just a so small fraction of life, 0.3%. On the contrary, plants are almost the 86% of the life. So life is practically just a green stuff. Life on the planet Earth, it's matter of plant, not of animals. And but we need also to ask ourselves, how is it possible that they were able to reach such a huge amount of life, and on the contrary, we are just so small, so few. 500 million of years ago, plants and animals, they took two different pathways in the evolution. Plants decide to stay still, to remain rooted, and to take all the energy they need from the sun. On the contrary, animals took a very different evolutionary decision. They decide to move and to predate plant and other organisms for uptaking, for taking all the energy they need. So as we can see, there is an incredible different choice at the beginning of the pathway that brought to plant and to the pathway that brought to animals. Plants are autonomy, and the correct term would be autotrophic organisms. So they are able to live without harming any other organism. Plants, animals, on the contrary, they need to feed themselves with other living organisms. And this is something that we brought in our life. As I was saying you, the biggest difference between plant and animals, it's related to the fact that plants are rooted. So the correct way to talk about plant is not to say that they are not able to move, because they move a lot. But they are rooted, so they cannot displace themselves from the place where they were born, where they are born. Now, imagine if you are a plant. Imagine if you are rooted on the ground. So imagine if you cannot run away when there is something happening around you. And you can start to see how much difference there is between plant and animals. If you are a still organism, if you are a rooted organism, you are subjected to predation. So the animals will eat you. And so how were able the plant to solve the problems, to survive predation? They developed a completely different organization with respect to to animals. And I think this is the first big learning that we can the first big factor, that we can learn from plant. A different organization. We animals, we have a very simple organization. We have a brain, a head that is on charge of all the different organs that are under the brain. So, in other words, we have just single or double organs that are able to make specific function. Just let me make an example. We breathe with 2 lungs, we digest with 1 stomach, we see with 2 eyes, and we solve the problems with 1 brain. Now, what we did was to take this hierarchical, pyramidal organization and to spread everywhere. Just look at any organigrams in every kind of organization you can imagine, from economic organization to social organization. Everywhere we will see the same architecture of the animal organization. A head governing on different specialized organs. We will find this kind of organization everywhere. Now, the only advantage of such kind of organization is velocity. So we are made in this way because the first and most important response for us as animal is to move as far as we can. So when we say, normally we use the movement, we use our ability to move, to go away, to move away from the problems. When we animals say that we solved a problems, 90% of the case, we are not actually solving the problem. We are avoiding the problem. So we are moving away from the problem. So we use movement to go away from the problems. This is something that plants cannot do. So plants are actually, they need to solve the problems. If a plant needed to find water, to find nutrients, or to defend themselves, or to have a social life, to communicate, all things that we share with them, we have all the same goal. Well, in the case of plants, they need to solve the problem. So they cannot move away. They cannot run away from the problem. And one of the most wonderful solution plants found to solve problems and to resist to an environment that can be extremely dangerous is with an extremely new organization. Plants are completely decentralized, distributed organism. So whereas we breathe with 2 lungs and we see with 2 eyes and we solve a problem with 1 brain, plants are able to do that with the whole body. So in a plant, the whole body is able to breathe, the whole body is able to see, the whole body is able to solve problems, to make calculation. In a word, the whole body is intelligent. And the advantage of such kind of organization is that you can remove 70, 80% of the body of a plant, and the body is still living, the organization is still working. On the contrary, in our animal organization, it's enough to have a damage in just one of the many organs devoted to specific function to have a collapse of the entire organization. So a distributed, decentralized organization is much more resilient, it's robust, and it's also extremely creative. I mean, actually, if you want to solve problems, you need to imagine a distributed organization. Because just try to think about a big company having sites all over the world. And with a CIO in a specific place of the world, and with just a small group of people governing a so distributed and huge company. So how can they have the right information about local problems? This is almost impossible. The best way, the best organization that is able to solve problems because it's able to collect the best data from the environment just around them, it's a distributed and decentralized organization. And by the way, distributed and decentralized organizations are actually the sign of modernity. What I mean is that just look at internet. Internet it's by far probably one of the, if not probably the most important technological advancement of the last 500 years. And internet is built as a plant. It's completely decentralized. There are no command centers. And this is why it's so creative and it's so impossible to stop. A second point that I would like to raise as very important from a consequence of staying rooted is the the importance of the communities. If you are rooted, if you cannot move away, your neighbor are extremely important for you, are so important that implants the idea of competition, that it's by far the most important driving force of, I would say, a human economy. In implants almost don't exist. So plants are not competing at all. They are most of the time cooperating so much that in a forest or in a wood, every plant is completely interconnected with all the neighboring plants, and through the roots, there is an incredible exchange of information, of nutrients, of water, of whatever they need to survive. So plants are so incredibly supporting the communities that they are supporting the life even of stumps. Stumps are cutted trees. Even a stump is taken in life, it's completely, let's say, aided to survive by the other plants. And communities are not just in the most important engine of survival in plants, but everywhere. I mean, in nature, the force of community has been extremely underestimated until now. So we have the idea that life, it's a kind of arena where gladiators fight each other for the survival of the strongest, of the most intelligent. But this is not true. This is something that doesn't happen at all in life. Life proceeds through community or through symbiosis. Symbiosis, let's say, it's a technical term, a biological term, but there is one much more poetical that I like, that it's mutual aid. Mutual aid is the real engine of evolution. Evolution works through mutual aid. And this is something that we should learn for plant. And let me just say a few words about what the plants can do for us, not just being a model for our future, a model for our economy, a model for our social life. But they also may help us to solve the biggest problem of humanity today, that is global warming. When we talk about global warming today, we have very few ideas about what to do to solve this huge, incredibly difficult problem. But plants are here to help us. They are able to uptake CO2 from the atmosphere. CO2 is the main, you know very well that, is the main responsible of global warming. If we would be able to plant on the planet 1 trillion trees, then we would be able to reduce significantly the CO2 to a no more dangerous level. This is something that should be understood from everyone. We have a solution. It's not a technological solution. It's a natural solution. It's very simple, very easy. And most important, we know that will work. We need to plant 1 trillion trees. So plants are both a model and both a friend for our future. I think and I hope that these few words will bring in some of you the idea, some idea about how to imagine a new economy inspired by plant. And in any case, I am here from all of you. If you need some information, just look on my name on the internet, write me, and I will be able to discuss with all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Professor Mancuso. It is incredible how rich is the plant world, and I was impressed by the immanent ability of plants to foster the interest of the entire community and to make sure that no plants is left behind. But in order to understand how these fascinating but also provoking ideas of Professor Mancuso resonate among the young people of the economy of Francesco, we connect now with Stefano Ciliberti. Like Professor Mancuso, also Stefano is originally from Calabria, a beautiful region in the south of Italy. He currently works as postdoctoral researcher at the Department of Agriculture, Food and Agri-Environmental Sciences of the University of Pisa, and recently attended the EOF Summer School in Gubbio. Stefano, the floor is yours.
Professor Crivelli, thank you very much for your kind introduction. It's an honor to be here today, and thank you very much indeed to the Economy of Francesco staff and the organizing committee for giving me this amazing opportunity. Let me also thank Professor Stefano Mancuso for his gift on behalf of all the young economists, entrepreneurs, managers, and researchers that 2 years ago decided to gather around the message of Pope Francis to build another economy, the economy of Francesco. Professor Mancuso's speech today was really inspiring for us. His thesis, if I may resume it in few words, was more or less the following one. If economists had taken inspirations from the plant kingdom to build the economic science, better known as economics, we would not have lived the massive crisis of common goods that we are still experiencing all over the world. And why so? Well, because first of all, mainstream economics revolved around the concept of individual, or homo, a Latin word that clearly referred to the animal kingdom. And moreover, this individual was assumed as a homo economicus, a fully rational and self-interested being that nowadays we would tend to approach as a sort of selfish sociopath, unable to feel any sort of empathy for others. Well, Professor Mancuso revealed us today that placing at the center of the economic spotlight this individual, this homo economicus, was not a natural assumption for economics development and our life, not at all. Why? Because leaving the plant kingdom entirely out of the economic spotlight came at a cost. The cost of neglecting other living organisms that had been populating our planet long before of any other animal, as he explained. Plants, unlike animals, being fixed still in a given environment, are unable to exclude other living organisms from consuming natural resources that they need to survive. And at the same time, plants cannot easily move from a place to another to look for more nutrients, at least in the short run. And so what? So plants' survivals depend on the availability of natural resources in a given place, in their habitat. And in particular, depend on whether these natural resources are or not consumed and polluted from other living organisms. Using the economic jargon, for their survival, plants strongly depends on common goods that are these natural resources, not excludable from others' consumption, but strongly rival in consumption. As a result, plants have been always requested to govern and manage common goods in their habitat. And how? Well, to survive for decades, if not centuries, in the same place, plants introduced mechanisms and relationships of strong mutual assistance or mutual aid, as Professor Stefano Mancuso told us today, with the surrounding environment, establish cooperative, biodiverse, and resilient communities all over the world. And why is that so relevant for young economists? Because unlike plant kingdoms, on the other hand, in the animal kingdom, from which economists traditionally took inspirations, more hierarchical form of organization of relationships emerged instead of cooperative one. Moreover, also predatory attitudes toward the surrounding environment emerged. Just think at the current dominant business models of some firms or corporations all over the world as an example. In a nutshell, two main differences among these two kingdoms, on the one hand, the plant kingdom, on the other hand, the animal kingdom, emerged. In the plant kingdom, what matters and comes first is the community, not the individual. In the plant kingdom, the we rationality, the rationality of an open community, always prevailed on the I rationality, the rationality of the individual, of that homo economicus that was placed at the center of the economic science. Nowadays, we are experiencing the consequences of centuries of economic science centered exclusively on the animal model. Not by chance, we live in a chaotic, always moving and predatory world where community are losing importance and common goods are therefore in danger all over the world. In conclusion, all things considered, we, members of the EOF community, young managers, researchers, teachers, and so on, must strive for an urgent change in the current economic and business models. To realize this change, inspired by Professor Mancuso's words, we need a new generation of aware and motivated green or plant economists, businessmen, and leaders that looking at the plant kingdom and this mechanism will be able to address the huge challenges as climate change that are related to the governing of common goods, both at local, national, and international level. So, and these are my final words, bearing in mind St. Francis' message for a life in harmony with Sister Mother Earth, and inspired by today Professor Mancuso's gift, let's work all together to apply the plant revolution in economic and business science. I'm sure that the economy of Francesco Summer School that I attended in Gubbio last September could positively contribute to this purpose in the coming years. So that's all from my side, and from the depths of my heart, thanks again, Professor Stefano Mancuso and Professor Luca Crivelli for this unforgettable session, a possibility you gave me. Thank you very much.
Thank you to both of you, Professor Mancuso and Stefano Ciliberti, for the insightful thoughts and ideas. You have shown a very promising pathway for new research. I really hope that our young EOF scholars will feel somehow inspired and motivated to start conducting scientific research on this fascinating topic. Let me set the challenge to work more deeply on the features of plant economy in the next 12 months and to present the results in the next gathering in Assisi 2022. Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you.
Solo le pido a Dios que el dolor no me sea indiferente, que la reseca muerte muerte no me encuentre vacía y sola sin haber hecho lo suficiente. Solo le pido a Dios que lo injusto no me sea indiferente, que no me abofeten la otra mejilla después que una garra me arañó esta suerte. Solo le pido a Dios que el dolor no me sea indiferente, que la reseca muerte no me encuentre vacía y sola sin haber hecho lo suficiente. Solo le pido a Dios, solo le pido a Dios, solo le pido a Dios.
Thank you, Niado. Thank you very much. And now, wow, this is amazing. Hi, Ingrid, again. So, Ingrid, I would like to ask something. What could you hear and see today that inspired you, thanks to our wonderful friends of Economy of Francesco community?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for inviting me. And first, I want to thank God for being here and to the Blessed Mother Mary to being with me all the time. Well, actually, the things that inspires me a lot today, I wanted to express through my paint. And well, by first, I would like to explain you quick through the elements of the paint what I was inspired for. The first one is you can see that it's two painters in a one paint. In the back, you can see the city, the street of Wall Street. You know, this is very. This is a very symbolic symbol from the economics. But then St. Francis is changing the picture. Wow. Changing the picture where there is the human, there is the women and the men, there is the nature, there is the sun, there is the light for creating a new economy, to change the old one, and to change it obviously with God, with God making a soul through the economy, and also where there is the Pope Francis, writing fraternity with the one T that is the cross of Jesus, and the other T, the cross from St. Francis. Obviously, in the middle, St. Francis, because this is the economy of Francesco. So thank you very much, and thank you to the Pope Francis also to make this amazing Jesus love revolution.
Thank you, Ingrid.
And now, we are moving towards the end of this event, but before listening to the words of Pope Francis, we want to listen to you. So that's why I want to ask you to please, with your phone, with any device you have close to you, enter to menti.com and you can use the code 22862106. You can see it on the screen, 22862106. And with this code, you can send us a message. You can share with us a thought, a greeting, a wish. What do you care about, and what would you like to share at this special time looking towards 2022?
Now, we come to the central moment, so long awaited by all of us. Come with me, with us, and let's listen to Pope Francis.
Guys.
Cari giovani, vi saluto con affetto, lieto di incontrarvi, seppur virtualmente, in questo vostro secondo evento. In questi mesi mi sono arrivate molte notizie delle esperienze e delle iniziative che avete costruito insieme e vorrei ringraziarvi per l'entusiasmo
that we have built together, and I would like to thank you with the enthusiasm with which you bring forward this mission to give a new soul to the economy. The COVID-19 pandemic not only gave us the deep inequality that infect our societies, it has also amplified them. Since the appearance of a virus from the animal world, our communities have suffered a great increase in unemployment, poverty, inequality, hunger, and exclusion from necessary health care. Let us not forget that a few have taken advantage of the pandemic to enrich themselves and close themselves off. All this suffering has a disproportionate impact on our poorest brothers and sisters. Over the past 2 years, we have been confronted with all our failures in caring for our common home and family. We often forget the importance of human cooperation and global solidarity. We often also forget the existence of a responsible, reciprocal relationship between us and nature. The earth precedes us and was given to us, and this is a key element in our relationship with the goods of the earth, and therefore a fundamental premise for our economic systems. We are stewards of these goods, not masters. Despite this, the ailing economy that kills stems from the assumption that we are owners of creation, able to exploit it for our own interests and growth. The pandemic has reminded us of this profound bond of reciprocity. It reminds us that we have been called to care for the goods that creation gives to us all. It reminds us of our duty to work and distribute these goods so that no one is excluded. Finally, it also reminds us that, immersed in a common sea, we must embrace the need for a new fraternity. This is a propitious time to become aware again that we need each other, that we have a responsibility towards each other and towards the world. The quality of the development of peoples and of the earth depends above all on our common assets. Therefore, we must seek new ways to regenerate the economy in the post-COVID-19 age so that it may be more just, sustainable, and solidarity-based, that is, more mutual. We need more circular processes to produce and not squander our Earth's resources, fairer ways of selling and distributing goods, and more responsible behavior when we consume. There is also a need for a new integral paradigm capable of forming the new generations of economists and business people with respect for our interconnection with the earth. You in the economy of Francesco, as in many other groups of young people, are working with the same intention. You can offer this new outlook to this example of a new economy. Today, our Mother Earth is crying, and we are reaching dangerous thresholds. Perhaps you are the last generation who can give us a message, and in the light of this emergency, your creativity and resilience imply a great responsibility. I hope you can use those gifts to correct the mistakes of the past and lead us towards a new economy that is more inclusive, sustainable, and supportive.
This mission of the economy, however, includes the regeneration of all our social systems by instilling the values of fraternity, solidarity, and care for our earth and common assets in all our structures. We might address the greatest challenges of our time, from hunger and malnutrition to the equitable distribution of vaccines against COVID-19. We must work together and dream on a large scale. With our eyes focused on Jesus, we will find the inspiration to design a new world and the courage to journey together towards a better future. To you, young people, I once again entrust the task of placing fraternity at the center of the economy. Now as never before, we feel the need for young people who through study and practice know how to demonstrate that a different economy exists. Do not be discouraged. Let yourself be guided by the love of the gospel, which is the springboard for all change and which urges us to enter into the wounds of history and rise again. Let yourselves be launched with creativity. Be launched with creativity into the construction of new times, sensitive to the voice of the poor and committed to including them in the construction of our common future. Our time, because of the importance and urgencies of the economy, needs a new generation of economists who live the gospel in companies, schools, factories, banks and markets. Follow the witness of those new merchants whom Jesus does not expel from the temple because you are his friends and allies of his kingdom. Dear young people, let your ideas and dreams emerge, and through them bring to the world, to the church and to other young people, the prophecy and beauty of which you are capable. You are not the future, you are the present, another present. The world needs your courage now. Thank you.
Thank you, Pope Francis, for your encouragement, for your words. We must and we won't keep moving forward.
Unfortunately, we have really come to the end of this event. Thank you to everyone who made it possible. Thank you especially to all of the young people of Economy of Francesco. We could have told many more stories, research projects, initiatives, because the Economy of Francesco is a living and a generative process.
We are convinced that a better world cannot be built without a better economy, and that the economy is so important for the lives of people that we all need to be concerned with it. These words express our commitment to show the world an economy capable of engaging and speaking to everyone.
This is how we want to conclude our live event. We will leave the halls of our universities, our offices, our homes and conference centers. We will also leave the suggestive building here in Assisi, and we will return to our cities. We will take to the streets, and we will speak to the people and show them the face of an economy that has a soul. We will do this here in Assisi and simultaneously all over the world.
We wish to fully live our cities and transform them. In the footsteps of Francis, following his way of looking at the world and his desire for the highest poverty. Thank you all. See you all in 2022 here from Assisi.
Woo!
Tino, come, everybody. Livio, yeah, join.
All you need is
EOF. EOF. Hallelujah.